Oh, there's a judge.
And then let me share this here. Host that.
I think I shared it too. Let me do it again. I don't know. Let me check.
Hi, Judge. Can you hear me?
Copy that.
Okay, cool. All right. So I put in the topics, of course, open mic. I put the Wisconsin election and the Georgia dad who got arrested. I don't know if you heard about that story. Because we talked to Wisconsin Supreme Court today, and apparently it's important to elect conservative because, to say, I heard someone say if that liberal woman is elected, then that will help the Democrats in 2027 control Congress and allow Hakeem Jeffries to be House Speaker, and then most likely they're going to try and proceed with impeachment procedures. So a lot hinging on the Wisconsin Supreme Court election, apparently. So, and I know we talked about that a little bit say as well, because Elon he's putting a lot of effort and money behind the conservative, and I am going to look up to see the who's in the lead because today is election day in Wisconsin. And then the next topic, Black Dad. He got arrested for leaving kids at McDonald's playground to go to a job interview. And a lot of people on Instagram, is showing a lot of empathy for the father. It was a 10-year-old, 6-year-old, and 1-year-old. And apparently he was going in and out of McDonald's, going to a job interview, and he doesn't have a car. So I guess he come back and then leave out or whatever, and someone called the cops, and the cops came and arrested him, and the kids. So, now it's this online discussion. Should he have been arrested too much? And or should, people understand that he's a father looking for a job? And child support. So, sometimes people have questions about child support, and I think that could kind of be connected to the father who was arrested. And also, I didn't have enough room for the title, but I put this on YouTube. Cory Booker wrote the Filibuster record, trashing and targeting Trump and Elon. He's been speaking for 20 hours. And for me, it's just a whole bunch of hot air. And I think you have certain Democrats that are trying to position themselves to be minority leader, House leader, or leader of something in their party. You're filibustering what? For what? Social Security, he didn't cut it, and Doge, which is, investigating and unfolding a lot of corruption that was going on with spending. So, yeah. So, like I said, it's open mic. Hello to everybody. Please repost this space, and you can always request to come up. So, go ahead,
Okay.
Judge.
Here, the filibuster is to talk, literally, the point it's always been, is to talk something to death because it's just deemed objectionable by the opposition party. Famously, there have been episodes where people just picked up phone directories, the old type yellow pages and white pages, and just read from them, reading phone numbers. So the whole thing is to kill bills by talking in the death. It's not a matter of whether somebody is being relevant by what they say. Now, the other thing, justices cannot do anything. Nobody's court is supposed to be involved in politics. By what this outcome in Wisconsin can do has nothing to do directly with impeaching Trump, anything like that. That's all nonsense. But what it does have something to do with is to establish a majority in that Supreme Court that might be favorable to a certain kind of redistricting, which would give the Democrats an advantage in terms of obtaining another representative from that state after the districts get restructured. That's what they're shooting for. Now, whether or not they could impeach Trump again, see, impeachment's like an indictment, it's only an accusation. And the only thing these fool Democrats are likely to come up with is, again, a bogus allegation that doesn't have anything to do with the Constitution, which is Article 2, Section 4, that sets up the grounds for impeachment. They have to be for either treason, which is defined in the Constitution, and that's not going to wash, or for bribery, which is not going to wash for Trump, or it would have to be number 3, some sort of crime, either misdemeanor or felony committed in office. Now, the last 2 times they tried, they came up with nonsensical charges, which were, 1, obstructing Congress. But see, Congress is the House and Senate. So as soon as it got to the Senate, that issue was dead, because they said anybody in here feel he obstructed the majority party? No. Well, that was dead on arrival, because you'd have to obstruct both of them. But that's still no criminal charge under federal law, because anytime, say, a president vetoes some legislation, he would be technically obstructing the will of Congress, but that's legal. Was it any kind of other criminal offense? They didn't set forth one. So they brought in 2 nonsensical charges the first time, and then made the bad mistake of setting a precedent to attempt to impeach an office holder after he no longer held the office, to ruin his future political chances under Amendment 12. Now, that said, it's not inconceivable that idiots like Cory Booker might try to do that, but whether or not it would get through the Senate, which looks like it'll still remain Republican as a majority, is not highly likely. It's more of an inconvenience thing where, like the kids in elementary school who are punks, if they can't play the game, they want to get upset and run, take the ball home to mommy. So it's just a harassment point, but that's what the Democrats do. They just tend to harass and forget about the rules and want their way, because, you see, they can't convince the public that that's what's wanted. So they try to use the fact that they can exercise a bit of legislative control and get it that way. But I don't think it's going anywhere.
So let me do a test, audio test. Can you hear me clear, or am I coming across choppy?
You're being heard clearly.
Okay.
I can, yes, and I can hear you clearly.
Okay. And I need people on YouTube. Am I clear now, or am I still choppy? Please let me know. Because they said I was choppy, and I actually went back and listened, and I was. So I want to make sure that I'm clear on YouTube. So YouTube guys, please let me know. All right. So anybody want to request to come up, please do so. Like I said, it is open mic. And did you want to speak to the dad being arrested?
Well, that's a new thing. People used to do that quite commonly, but they don't now, because, kids used to leave home in the morning in the summer at 7, 8 years old, go hang out with the friends, and they knew to be back when the street lights went on. But now people shadow their kids out in the backyard out of fear that some pervert's going to kidnap them. So you probably have some negatives that are going to be in place, and a lack of tolerance for what used to be not unusual. I guess the people are a bit more fearful, and you know, it is what it is, and there are rules about supervision and the entity McDonald's, if they accepted it, well, then they arguably would be subject to liability if anything happened. So everybody tries to protect themselves, and I understand.
You're going in and out, Judge. It's a lot of noise in your background. Okay, now I can't hear you at all. So I don't know what happened with your audio. If you could hear me, you're gonna have to go out and come back in. Judge. Carrie, can you hear him?
No, I can't hear him. I
Okay.
can hear you.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. He was, I guess, moving around. Okay, he declined. He's all right. He's probably dropping down and then coming back.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. So he dropped down and come back in. If he moves around, I guess throughout his house, it probably messes up with the Wi-Fi going in and out. Let's see. All right, I'm about to send. I'm just going to send you a straight co-host invite.
Mighty fine, and I'm standing right in front of the phone. I'm not moving, so I don't know what happened. It's typical.
All right. So did
Now, what
and
I said about the father was it's a different time in our country, and people are real delicate. And the main consideration might have been that if McDonald's had accepted him doing that, they would have been responsible and assumed um, the liability if something had happened to the kid while the dad was gone. So here we go, loop de loop.
Well, I dropped my kids off at McDonald's, I think, back in the day. And, but that was back then. Uh, but never a 1 year old, though.
Well, you know what? I used to babysit for the neighborhood. I'd get paid $5 for doing it, and I'd babysit 1, 2, 3 year old kids. And this one, they're siblings, so there's a 10-year-old there. I
Okay.
don't get it. 10-year-olds are now deemed irresponsible, but 10-year-olds used to do a whole lot of babysitting back when. They used to have this series on TV and syndication called Our Gang, also known as the Little Rascals. And
Oh,
quite
yeah.
often, one of the plot lines was one of the elementary school boys, 9 or 10 years old, was very displeased on having to babysit baby brother or baby sister who he had to change diapers on. So,
That's so true. That is so true, but we used to let our kids out. I don't know. It's so different today than it was like 10 years ago, I would say, even.
well, I do know a lot of people on social media. They're saying, well, they wanted more information. I guess to bail him out. I was reading articles on it, and they're not. They're just talking about the incident that happened, and he was arrested, and that's it. So, hopefully, he gets released. Hopefully, he gets a job. The kids are safe with mom. I mean, anything could have happened. Some people may say, well, where was the mother? Well, maybe she was at work. So a lot of times I just think that what I will say to this too, it's a lack of community that I see now. Because it was just saying it takes a village to raise children, and
Mhm.
a person shouldn't have to feel or be put in a strap situation, especially if they're trying to look for a job, because you need a job to support your kids. So, and then it probably
I
was out on
know.
spring break. Who knows? So hopefully he gets out. So like I said, it is open mic, guys. You could request to come up, you could talk to the topics that I have up here or anything else that you guys wanted to bring up. Real quick, I am checking the Wisconsin Supreme Court election results. 16% of the votes are in. Susan Crawford, who is a Democrat, she's at
Oh,
55.4%. And Brad Shamel, who's the Republican, he's at 44.6%. And it's only 16% of the votes are in. So it's most likely going to be, I think, it's going to be a tight race. And to what you were saying, Judge, maybe, but yes, because this has to do with redistricting. So if you redistrict, then that has to do with representation, whether it's for Democrats or Republicans. So if Susan Crawford, the Democrat, wins, and the liberals on this Supreme Court of Wisconsin, you know, do the redistricting that's going to benefit Democrats, then they may pick up another seat in Congress. And if you pick up another seat or two, that could maybe tilt some of votes. Do you get what I'm saying?
Well, let's put it this way, if I can interrupt on that. The Supreme Court ordinarily wouldn't be involved in the redistricting unless there was a dispute and a challenge. What would happen is, a Democratic majority in Wisconsin's legislature decided to fudge with the districting, then you would have a state Supreme Court that would be more inclined to discover reasons to support them than not. I don't think the Republicans are going to have a very optimistic shot at taking this, but we'll see.
You think they won't take it?
I think it's going to be pretty, it might be close, but I think it'll be a long stretch for them to get it. I hope they do, but I'm not optimistic.
All that money and support, not just from Musk and Trump, but other conservatives, but it was $100 million. And the Republican side outspent the Democrat, and they still can't pull it off. So what does that say? Is the Democrat Party
Wisconsin,
gaining momentum?
I don't get it either.
Wisconsin is Wisconsin, and you forgetting people have reputations for doing what they have done that stretch back over years, that are things disassociated with another person in the same party. So it's an off year. It's not even a midterm election period. And a lot of people don't understand how important politics is to their life. And they're very reluctant to go in and spend the time voting. So that's always bad when you have an odd year, peculiar election that's not a midterm election or a main election.
Well, they need to vote. It's so important. And I think they're trying really hard at Steve, who, oh goodness. Who's that? Who's the man with the long hair? That
Yes, he was on Benny Johnson's show today.
what's his
I
name?
forgot.
What's
I forgot. And I
I'm
follow
having
him on
I
X.
can't think. I do too. Persistence or something. I
Yes.
don't know, but he's good, and he worked Pennsylvania well, and he didn't get help from any of these high deal politicians over there until like a week before.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that guy worked his butt off. And let me ask you a question, Judge. I mean, like, majority of the people voted for Donald Trump, and and he also got the popular vote. Um, and then so that should convey to everyone that what people want. Okay, and so and then all this crime that's coming on because they didn't get their way on shit, and so they just burn up Tesla. How could someone be a part of the Democrat Party? I mean, I just got involved in politics 2016, just like whatever. But I just can't understand that. I do not support violence like that. If I don't get my way, oh well, I might get pissed off about it, but I don't go burn up a building or destroy a Tesla car. It's like no one respects someone's property. But no one in the Democrat Party apologized for these actions or said stop, doing it. It's just crazy. I would not vote Democrat because of that. At one
Perhaps,
time, Democrat.
per-
I'm sorry, go ahead.
perhaps what's going on is a resurrection. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yes.
perhaps what's going on is a resurrection of what went on in the 60s, where you didn't have 180 people getting a little rowdy after they'd been let into the Capitol building. You would have had 12,000 of them throwing stones and cinder blocks and concrete blocks through the doors at the Capitol building back in the 60s. They had riots there where there were 35,000 people involved back in the 60s during anti war protests.
Were they
It's all
bad?
relative. And we've had 5, 6 years of the Democratic Party, 2 years deep in Trump's first administration, all through the Biden administration, where people who are supposed to be setting examples have been telling people to go out and savagely oppose the opposition, vandalize their cars, break shop windows, burn stuff up, and nobody has reacted to it. So it's like they want to become part of doing something, and they've been convinced that they're doing something somehow or another heroic, which it's not. So I'm not surprised at what people are doing in terms of lawlessness,
Jeez.
but burning up somebody's Tesla car, they're likely to run into somebody that gets really pissed off about it and shoots one of them, and then they'll be
I know
screeching
it.
about gun control.
Oh, I'm sure that. I mean, I'm
But
surprised it
is what
hasn't
it is.
happened because they're all wearing. That one guy was wearing a Trump hat, and that really pissed him off. And he was just sitting at. He didn't care what they said. But you're right. One of these
I
days.
passed the mic if I can be heard. Can I still be heard?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello?
Mhm.
Can you hear
Hello.
me?
Anybody there?
Yeah. Can you hear us?
Oh,
I heard him say, "Oh boy."
Yeah. Because you can hear me, Carrie, right?
Yes.
Okay. Uh okay, I see him as listener. Let's see, invite
There
to
he is.
co-host.
He's making his way in there. I see
I
him.
just sent you the co-host invite.
Hello?
Yeah, Rob, can you hear us, Robert?
Yeah, is it just, are the questions only pertaining to the Wisconsin election and the
No, no,
arrested
no.
dad?
It's open mic, so it could be anything else that any if it's something else that you want to bring up or ask, you
can you
can.
hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
can you
sir.
hear me?
Well, what I was getting was a recordation of what I'd already said. So that's when I said, oops, something's going wrong. I was getting a recording of my voice speaking something I'd already said a couple of minutes before. So I
Okay. All right,
dropped
so
out.
we have a couple of speakers. I want to go to Robert. Go ahead, Robert.
So, my question is for the judge. I was recently watching the Senate hearings where they were talking about the rise of anti-Semitism, and they had a rabbi on, and he was saying that it's not enough to be anti-Semitic. America needs to be anti-anti-Semitic. And they were talking about like passing laws on college campuses to like I think it was to like deter students from promoting, I mean not promoting, protesting against like the war in Gaza. And I was just wondering, like, is that like constitutional? Like, does that infringe on the First Amendment to pass speech laws?
I, it's really gotten crazy these days. They have long said that you could suppress pornography, porn, obscenity, doing things like falsely yelling fire in a crowded theater that are likely to promote immediate public disorder. But they've never restricted talking about somebody, even if today they would call it hate speech. That's just sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And when you start setting up restrictions based on expressing displeasure, it's too easily, entirely too easy, to abuse that and start using it to repress free speech to the point where it starts having political, social, and economic consequences. I don't get it because I did not grow up where people did not talk about each other. And it basically is boiling down to the way I see it. Certain people you can talk about, certain others you can't talk about, and it's not even across the board. So I'll pass the mic on that. I think it's a constitutionally suspect thing to do to start trying to control expressing dislike for somebody.
Thank you, Judge.
RC.
Good evening, everybody. Judge,
Good
Dana,
evening.
Eric.
How are you?
I'm great. I have a quick question for the judge. Well, actually, I want to build on what Robert was talking about. It seems as though Trump is beholden to Benjamin Netanyahu, which is not even his real name. We won't even get into that part. It's like they have something over him to where you have to wonder, is he even trying to follow through? Is this his agenda, threatening Iran? Because Israel has always wanted to destabilize the Middle East, and this has been documented. And I just feel as though this whole thing with, you know, saying that people can't have free speech by saying things that are anti-Semitic is not even his ideas or policy. It just feels like he's doing whatever Benjamin Netanyahu is telling him. And when he visited the White House and he pulled out that chair, the optics looked very suspect. And I was wondering, do you feel as though Trump has full autonomy of the White House, or do you think that Benjamin Netanyahu
Actually,
is like
if
wielding a lot of
anything
power in
is
the White
going
House?
on, Israel is the one that's under the U.S. thumb. See, you've got a situation where you've got a huge amount of oil over there in the Middle East. In Israel, especially now that it is in formal treaty alliance with Egypt, and Egypt and Israel are cooperating with Saudi Arabia, considering the trade and the money that goes on with oil being supplied to the United States, and also intelligence being delivered by Saudi counterintelligence, Egypt's intelligence community, and Mossad on the Israeli side. It is most probable that what's been going on for the last 60 some years is still in effect over there. And that is that the United States has been acting as an ally. There's a guilt thing that's going on about what was allowed to happen in Germany in World War II that the Old West is still reacting to. And there is the considerable influence, probably brought about by the connections of the friends of Israel in the United States who are deeply embedded in STEM, science, technology, and engineering, and in economics in terms of banking connections and controls, and also in law with so many who are sympathetic to Israel being involved in the ability or the practice of utilizing our legal system for specific ends. So what's happening is not to be unexpected, you know? And this has been going on for a long time.
RC, oh, go ahead, or you want to
A
finish your
long
question?
time.
Yeah, my original question. Thank you, Judge. My original question was, why do you feel as though Tom Homan and Trump have slowed down?
Hello, anybody there?
Oh my,
Hello,
what is going on?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I don't.
Okay.
I,
He,
I can.
you know
He
what?
said
I
he
can.
said last week that he has a bad reception in his house, and I think that's why he was in his car. If you remember the
Yeah,
conversation.
I do remember that. He's not in his car. He's in the house, and he is moving around because he's making coffee. And I'm like,
Yeah.
and it's. I mean, the purpose of X Space, it lets us move around while we're on social media. But Judge, you can't move
Hello?
around.
Judge, are you in your house?
If you can hear me, I can hear myself from about 3 minutes ago speaking right now.
No,
It's crazy.
Ju- can you hear us, Judge?
Hello?
Hello.
Hello.
Can anybody
Hello.
hear me?
All right.
Can you hear me? This is Carrie Ann.
I
Hello.
put him on listener. I don't know. Let's give it a second. And I think he really needs to update his app. The app isn't updated. Uh,
Yeah, deactivate it and re-download it. Maybe you can answer my question, Dana. Why do you feel as though Tom Homan and Trump have taken the foot off the pedal with the mass deportation that they claimed they were going to do during the election cycle while they were running for office?
who said?
Because they stopped showing the numbers. They used to announce the numbers. Now it's up down to 500 a day. And from my math, if I'm not mistaken, 500 a day is about 900,000. And there's allegedly 20 million uh, illegals.
Well, I think we need to just put everything in perspective because he just got into office mid January. It hasn't even been a full quarter, even though we're going into the second quarter. But when he was inaugurated January 20th, so February, March, so still 2.5 months. He cannot deport nowhere near half, not even less than a third. Like he cannot deport millions within 2 months. It's not just going to happen. However, what is happening, and I saw these numbers on Fox, the decrease in border crossing. So this time last year, the number was like 100K. And this time,
Because he opened up the floodgates, with all due respect. He being Joe
right,
Biden.
exactly. So what I'm trying to compare is Fox said this time in March last year, it was 100K people coming through the border. This time this year is less than 70,000 because of Trump. So for someone who's been in office not even a full 3 months, that's major. So I think it gets to a point to where you're going to see a lot of people being deported, but it's a lot of bureaucratic um a lot of bureaucratic paperwork because they're
Well, a lot of them are hiding in sanctuary cities where they're not cooperating with the federal government.
exactly that's
But
that's part of the bureaucratic process. Yeah.
yep.
So because what would have been easy, right? um all the illegals that were committing crimes and the gangs, and they were arrested, but under the sanctuary cities and these blue states, they would arrest them and let them go. But if they would have kept them in a database or kept them behind bars, then when Trump came in, he could just round them all up and then ship them back so much faster. But that's why the Democrats allowed them to, okay, catch and release. So we'll let them scatter and let ICE and Tom Homan and Trump figure that out to make it difficult for them. Judge, are you back?
I'm back, but what I heard was myself talking. I'd
Why don't you
already
go
been
all
out.
the way out? Okay,
I
go all.
did.
No,
I
you
did.
didn't.
But I was listening. What you guys were doing was talking to a recording to me. I wasn't talking to you when I was saying, "Can you hear me?" I was listening to myself say, "Can you hear me?" And people were saying, "I can hear you." But that wasn't me. That was a recording. Now,
Oh my
back to
God.
this thing. The conservative estimates are somewhere around 20 million illegals have been let in over the last 4 some years. The worst case is close to 50 million, which ramps the American population over to 400 million that are living inside these borders. And that is a number that's consistent with more than half of the countries in the world. So most countries don't have 40 million people in them or 30 million in them. So we let in a typical size nation worth of people into our borders. And that's very bad.
Um, I want to run. I'm gonna go to Robert. Robert has his hand up, and like I said, listen, guys, we're out of here at midnight. So please request to come up. Please don't wait till 11:30. But go ahead, Robert.
Another question I had for the judge, and it kind of goes back to my question about if it's constitutional about the anti-Semitism laws. I was recently seeing Trump's pick for ambassador to Israel. He was at an event, and he was saying that people like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, like they're gonna do their best to silence their voices, and if they have to, lock people up and stuff like that. Should we be like concerned about uh, the Israel first settlement in the Trump administration?
If there is any actual overt manifestation of it, yes, we should. I am totally against any suppression of First Amendment rights. I pass the mic.
Okay. I want to throw something, but I'm gonna come this way in 1 second. With Cory Booker and the Democrats. So he's, I guess, trying to congratulate himself, and he's saying, "Yes, I am aware that of what's his name, Strom Thornburg, Throm, what is that?
Thurman.
Yeah, Thurman. So he actually broke Thurman's filibuster record,
Strom Thurmond
and that's
was
what."
one of Biden's mentors.
Right. So, and he was filibustering against the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So my thing is, okay, Cory Booker, you broke his record to say what? To present what? Um, I look at it, you up there breaking his record, but you were on the same side. Wasn't he a Democrat? Correct me if I'm wrong. Thurman, was he a Democrat?
He's one of those that was Democrat, I think, and then went to Republican.
Okay.
Yeah. Hmm.
But he was a lifelong Democrat, basically. But the problem, what gets under my skin is Democrats are making shit up, and they are making it up a narrative so well and so finesse and so sophisticated that the general public believes it, and the general public is very gullible, very much. They're easily can be easily manipulated. So, and the Democrats, they don't have a plan. They're just making shit up. And people are starting a little bit by little bit, starting to believe their bullshit. So I'm going to go to Sway Me.
Good evening, Dana and Judge Joe Brown. Dana,
Okay.
great point, because I don't know why Cory Booker is standing up for Strong Thurmond, as we know Strong Thurmond never supported our community. So it's weird. And along with that, I was going to ask the judge and you about what's going on in Texas with Epic City, and now the uh, Muslims are building all these mosques. They're building this city where they're saying they're going to implement Sharia law. And here we are once again with the First Amendment and the freedom of speech, and of course, religion, to choose religion. But it's not looking good from what I'm hearing with what they're doing. They're saying they're going to build it no matter what. And I'm just having real issues with all these people coming to America and they can do what the freaking frack they want to do. But the Americans who have been here, built this country, developed it, and advanced it, everything that our wealth has been plundered. I'm really pissed off. I'm really agitated that other people can come here and do what the freaking frack they want to do, get as much money, get as many resources. And here I'm a descendant and we done fought for World War II to bring the Jews over and we get nothing. I'm over it. And these people can come here and do whatever they want to do. I land.
I think the judge had to go out and come back in.
I'm back. I heard people trying to talk to my recording again.
I don't know.
We're a little weird. Okay.
So let me
If
just.
they're American citizens, they're entitled to freedom of speech. First Amendment guarantees freedom of religion. Now, here's the thing about Sharia law. You can talk about it all you want to, but all you can do is agree that with people who are members of your particular, well, strain of the religion or faith who want to practice it with you, you can do that with each other. Under the U.S. Arbitration Act of 1928, you can establish any rules you want to be binding on contractual arbitration, but you cannot impose a Sharia law in a fashion where it gets applied where it really counts, which is through official entities like state, local, and federal governments. That's not going to happen. We are based on the common law with one exception in the United States, and that is based on Napoleonic codes out of Louisiana. But they've morphed over into common law as well. So Sharia law is not going to happen, but that's just part of the collateral consequences of having the First Amendment and free speech. You have to tolerate people when they decide to do what they want to do. And I will assure you that all followers of Islam are not trying to get Sharia law implied or imposed, because that wasn't part of the whole thing to begin with. That came later. So that's local. That's like wearing the burqas. There is nothing in the Quran that says a woman has to do that. That stems from this local pre-existing custom and practice, not from the Quran, when women have to cover themselves up like that.
Right. That
But
and
we who
it's.
don't know
I
much
think
about it
people.
think
Can
that
you hear me,
comes from
Judge?
that. So a
Can
lot
you
of
hear
it
me,
is just
Carrie?
like
Can you hear me?
Christians, we
Yes,
have
yeah, I can hear you.
Branch Davidian.
Okay, ask the
We had
judge if he
Reverend
can hear
Jim
me.
Jones, who had a thing about Kool-Aid at
Judge,
large
Judge,
church picnics.
excuse me, Judge, can you hear me? Can you hear
I
us?
passed the mic.
He can't hear. Oh my
No,
god.
no,
He.
he can't hear me.
That might have been another, like one of his recordings.
I don't know. He's gonna have to go completely out of the space. Oh, what is this?
Here he comes. I see him.
How is I'm not even letting him back up, but you saying here he comes, like I see him as listener. I don't see him as speaker. I don't know if do you see him? Okay, let me see. What is this?
I left completely and came back in.
Can you hear me?
I hear you, but you were talking to my recording. I hear you. And I
There he
left
is.
completely, came back in, went all the way out, went back to your link on my message page, came back in after trying to come in by simply
Mm.
leaving and then taking the access point that's on X. So I don't know what's
I
happening. I've got full bars here, so I should be getting a good signal. I don't know what's happening.
so I wanted to say to Sway Means to her points. I think people I think people are getting everything misconstrued because they are American citizens. If you have the money to buy land and create a community, you could do that. You have every right to do it. I don't have a problem with that. There are Muslim communities now. There are a whole bunch of Jewish communities. Look at Brooklyn. You might as even though it's, you might as well say they kind of technically bought up land or whatever, but they have their own police department. So you have groups of people who create their own community, their own school education, their own police departments locally, and they operate. Now you cannot implement like Sharia law punishments on American soil because this is not Iran or another country, but that's not the premise of Sharia law. And it's really disheartening for me to see the media and people on social media that are making these posts, trying to say, well, they're building a Muslim city and it's going to be a whole bunch of terrorists or whatever, just stereotyping. And I say that to say because I have family members, my grandkids are Muslim and they just got finished celebrating Eid. My grandson could speak fluent in Arabic. And I do know I think it's in Houston or maybe Dallas, but in Texas or maybe Austin. But I know my daughter was telling me they have a very large Muslim community. And you talk about mansions, like all these communities of these big mansions, and they're all, it's all Muslim owned. So people putting their money together because they have the resources, they have the money, they petition to the local government and state or whatever, and they follow the rules. Why not? What's the problem with that?
I think I'm having a problem because ours has been destroyed. We built up our cities and towns and they were destroyed and nobody has paid for it, and oh, black people don't do nothing, and everything we build gets destroyed but everybody else gets free reign. And we've been here 400 some years. Land taken, redlining, gentrification, everything everybody else can come here and freely establish. But the Black American, the freedmen that been here, built this country, developed it, fought in every war, patriots of the land. We don't get anything. We can't have nothing.
Well,
That's why I'm
okay,
big
so
on
let me
reparations.
push back a
Well,
I'll
little
land.
bit there
let me
because
put
wait, let me
something
let me
to
say
you.
this
Let me
real quick,
put
Judge.
something to you.
Wait, let me speak first.
Okay.
Let me because at one point, yes, that did happen, but let's just take 2025. Can black people do the same thing that those Muslims that bought that land in Texas do? Absolutely. If you come together and organize and pull your resources together, because the state of Texas, they didn't give them that land like retribution or reparations. No, they followed the law, they purchased it with their money or however the process is. So that wasn't reparations or retribution given to, can you mute up, RC? That wasn't reparation or retributions giving to those Muslim people. They paid for it. Can black people do the same? Yes. So yes, in the past, throughout decades before, there were towns burned down, but that's not happening today. So we could always rebuild.
Right, but that's the thing. Why are we having to rebuild on our land? But I get you, Dana. So when we delineate as freemen and we separate and make sure we get all of our resources and others can't be in our pot, we must do that as Americans because these others are coming to take over and remove us from our rightful position in our country. And I have a problem with it. And I get everybody can come here and live and do what you want to do, but I'm seeing, especially on the political level, where they're coming in to make sure the Americans, us, don't receive anything that is due to us. So that's why I'm having the problem and highly frustrated because I've attempted to pass legislation specifically for my demographic of my people. American freedmen,
But that
I
doesn't
learned.
happen. Our representatives who look like black folk in black caucuses pass legislation for the rainbow community, not their black constituents. So what do you
Or the
do?
immigrants.
Well, the immigrants have power because they control who they vote for, and they have some say because they are engaged in the political process instead of spending time praying in church or getting pimped by a pulpit pimp or talking about they don't get involved in politics when they do, but they don't realize it. They don't say that. They get engaged in it and pay a lot of attention to it. And they, if you talk to that community, they're up on a lot of details. They do what we're doing right here, but the typical person that you're talking about who's getting ignored, hey, they haven't done anything for a long, long time. And when they do something, it's sort of like they're out there putting on a display that a lot of people just ignore with no penalties or consequences for ignoring it. The people, the Black Caucus certainly has enough members to actually have some effect. But if you look at the voting record and the legislative activities of the Black Caucus over the last 40 years, it has essentially been rainbow, not black. So we are stupid enough to elect representatives who do not represent the impacted community, but somebody else and just pimp the community that they look like. It's that community's fault for doing that. They have a truth about American politics. It's this: the people get the representatives they deserve. And if their representatives are crap, that's because the people who put them in office are crap. Remember, even somebody as idiot stupid as Jasmine Crockett is handily elected by her constituents who must be just as stupid as her to put her in. Look at the people who put in Cory Booker. He's a fool, an idiot. But there must be other idiots who want him in because they put him in. Now, that's maybe there's a massive electoral cheating, but he gets in. So who put him in?
Do you know about APAC grooming
Well,
individuals
I
in our
mean, if you
community to
let that happen, then that's your fault. I mean, you have the same rights now, the same possibilities now, same potential now as anybody in this system. You're talking about people who just got here knowing how to work this system better than we do. We can play basketball, but that doesn't count. We can go out and play football, but that doesn't count. We can talk baseball and we can dance and sing and do rap and put on clothes that single you out and say, here's a red flag, come bust me, I'm going to be a fool. We can do that, but we do not choose to exercise our options and our time to become proficient in what other people come here and pick up immediately on. We've been here several hundred years, but we haven't gotten it yet. Apparently, some of us do.
I beg to differ though, Judge, but go ahead. I
But what
beg to
I'm talking
differ.
about is begging to differ doesn't cut it. What do you see as results? None. Why? Because we are ineffective. And we go along with people that don't give a damn about black folk. They give a lot of damn about the fact that black folk vote. And as I'm saying a lot, at one time, black people were exploited for their free labor for King Cotton. Now they're exploited for their free votes for Queen Rainbow. So nobody's going to
Yeah, but
mention.
our experience hasn't been the same as the others.
No, it
So,
doesn't make any
our
difference. Then
people
we're
been
dumber than what.
disenfranchised
See,
from
but
the political
if
process
you
for
want to
quite
take
some
that
time.
position, that makes us dumber than everybody else because obviously there's a lack of intelligence there to make the connections. If you have had worse experience, but you're here right now and you can't even catch up with somebody that just got here, that says badly about you. Nobody's going to lynch you now.
Well,
Nobody's
they
gonna.
they they were under that fear. Yes, you're correct. No
Well, if
one's
they're
gonna lynch us
fearful,
now,
then a
but we've
coward.
been in a space of politics where people were lynched
There would not. There's been
for
nobody
voting,
lynched
right?
in your lifetime. There's been nobody lynched in a long time. It
Well,
the
Martin
middle.
Luther King and
He
Malcolm
wasn't
X were
lynched. He was
assassinated, correct?
murdered, and he was murdered by another black man's order. J. Edgar Hoover, who ran the FBI. I was the last judge on that case. It was ridiculous. The Black Caucus is treating the FBI like they're their saviors, and the FBI was created to oppress black folk. J. Edgar Hoover was a black, slightly passing for white. If you look at early pictures of him, there's no question as to what it is. Smithsonian Institution's even running stories on that. So, I mean, but we sit there and we do each other in. Look at these clowns that we elect. They don't do anything for us. And when you say us, you have to expand it. Maybe we get so insular talking about us, when us isn't doing anything for us. Maybe we need to start saying, okay, it was a bad move. Maybe we need to start offsetting this by learning what the new arrivals have already learned and are putting to work, and shut up and do. We just talk, and ask somebody to do for us. They don't do that. They do it for themselves. So if we're begging people to help us out like we're still children, that's like a 35, 40-year-old man doesn't have a job, sits on his couch downstairs in the basement at his parents' house, his mother's house, mooching money and food instead of going out and being self-sustaining and complaining about white supremacy keeps him down. That's ridiculous. There is no earthly reason right now that anybody of any color should legitimately start claiming that the system's come holding him down because of what he is. What he looks like, yes. And you see, a great deal of this negativity has got nothing to do with the fact that somebody's black. It's got to do with somebody's displayed culture. Loud, boisterous, unruly, looking like some kind of circus clown in some rags, or somebody homeless, even if you have money, who just dug something out of the dumpster to put on. Sagged and bagged, looking like somebody's a queer out of the joint. It's
Come
crazy.
on, Judge, give us a break.
I'm not giving anybody a break.
You
It's
have to give
time
us
to
a
do
break,
it. I'm
Judge.
Can
not
everybody
giving.
stay on a mic?
I got
I'm
never
not.
gonna
I'm not
get
doing
got by
that.
I'm
you.
not giving.
I'm not. Please don't come up in here with that. I have to go to J Views. Then I go to Judge Sarah, then Duncan. Please stay. Everybody stay on your mic. And I can't, Judge.
You know I gotta mess with him.
I'm
You know I
afraid,
gotta mess with
Judge. I'm
him.
afraid to make you a co-host because it may start messing up. But go ahead, Judge.
See, what
Hey,
happens
you
is
guys. Hey,
you can't. I
Shayna.
know
You
this.
know I gotta give him a hard
I
time
know
Yeah,
because
can
I
this.
you
got a
please
couple of things.
stop, Judge Sarah? I get it, but don't interrupt
See,
him. He in the middle
I
of
know.
talking. Like, just mute up. I'm gonna get to you.
Is it my turn or no?
not yet.
No.
Okay, I'm
No,
sorry.
it's
I'm sorry. I
not
wasn't
yet. The
listening. I was
judge is
anxious to
speaking.
talk to him.
Now,
I'm
the
sorry.
judge is speaking. Let me finish.
Yes,
This is
sir.
what you need to hear. Stop looking for somebody to do something for you that you can do for yourself. It does not work. And
Got it,
also,
Judge. I'm doing the work, Judge, but I
all
do see
listen,
something in doing the work. I
listen,
see something. I see
listen,
something happening.
listen.
But go ahead.
You can make it happen. You have all of these filthy rich black athletes and entertainers who bug dance and distract people.
We're not looking at them.
Oh,
I'm
yes,
I'm
you
your
are.
general
Yes, you are.
population.
That's where we get our imagery. Somebody's patronizing looking at housewives of Atlanta. Somebody's fool enough to keep up with the Kardashians. Somebody's damn fool enough to want to see Blackish. Somebody is damn fool enough to try and exclude themselves into some kind of separated community that doesn't have a damn thing in it. Somebody is stupid enough not to, when they're 18, 19 years old, take science, technology, engineering, math, economy, law, and all sorts of other things that'll allow you to make it in the real world. And they got some little lightweight BS degree they're getting that won't get them a job. You have kids who have ample opportunity because there's nothing else to do to stop in a library when they're in the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th grade and learn what's going on. They don't. They're playing basketball and they're 5'5" and will never make a pro team. That's what's going on, and that's ridiculous. We ideate. It's not even a we thing anymore. It's like, do you realize how badly some ordinary black folk are thinking about other black folk because of the behaviors? See, white folk have this thing, what do they call it? Trailer park trash, acting like a damn fool. Nobody likes that. But for some reason, over the last 50 years, that's supposed to be where all of the black folk in America are supposed to find themselves when it comes to behavior. Acting like fools, ignoramuses, the unwashed, the unpaid, and the unworking. That is not cool. You don't have to walk into a restaurant and share with somebody in the backside who doesn't want to hear you what you did with Tamika last night. You don't have to drive down a street with your vehicle registration 3 months out of date and your tail light's not working and you're playing music that you're sharing with somebody 4.5 blocks away. Now that's where it gets crazy. Or did I get cut off again? Oh boy.
No, we can hear you.
Okay, well, I mean, stop blaming everything else where you have as much opportunity as anybody in this country, and 300 or 400 years worth of ancestral residency here to get it together, and you can't. That is pathetic. And if these people come in and they have the financial wherewithal to buy property rights and real estate and set up what they want to in their communities, that's their entitlement under American law. Anybody could do that if they collaborated. We don't, because when we have the financial capital, we don't invest it. We give it to some damn fool pulpit pimp who famously will get on TV and pimp those who think they're going to hell because they didn't do what they were supposed to do and say, if you support me, you'll get into pearly gates. You don't have to do a damn thing. And he's at $5,000. Anybody want to donate 5,000? Step over here. Come up those who want 1,000. You get TD Jakes and that idiot they've been putting out there for the last few. All of them. They pimp you and you want to go in there and love it. But you don't want to deal with the fact that that's why you get nowhere. I mean, if you're going to have a religion, use it for its purposes, not to get pimped by it. I mean, it's extraordinary what we are doing. And we always whine about how somebody's picking on us. Hell, the way to stop getting picked on is to stand up for yourself. They don't, I mean, the whole society is going to hell because they're trying to teach kids not to deal with bullies. You can't be an adult human without learning how to deal with a bully. That's why they got all these fools shooting places up, because invariably they don't know how to deal with a bully. They're expecting somebody to do it for them, but that's not how it works. It only works when you stand up to what the oppression is and you resist it. And we don't. We talk about it and beg about it, and we sing about it, dance about it, ideate about it, and then wonder why the hell nothing is good. So when somebody comes in and says, in our community, we've got the financial wherewithal, we have the wisdom have acquired, we decide we're going to set up our individual communities and we want Sharia law. And maybe they know about the U.S. Arbitration Act of 1928 that has been repeatedly seconded, excuse me, by the U.S. Supreme Court, that says under that act you can privately arbitrate using any rules you want. And if you agree to it by contract, then it becomes enforceable. And we're worried about whether they're going to take over the courts. No, they can't do that. But they can certainly arbitrate to resolve their disputes, or they can have community panels to do it, which is a form of arbitration. U.S. Arbitration Act of 1928. It's legal. And we're to what? Say, oh, this other group over here has been here for hundreds of years. We're supposed to say, oh, they're so downtrodden, like the dogs who get mistreated. And poor Oscar, chained out in the kennel in the cold, has not known love. Send $19 a month to the SPCA. Oh, poor Jamal, he does not know love. He's been cast out and down. Send $19 a month to the Save a Negro Fund. That's how embarrassing it is. And then you have Cory Booker. Look what he's doing. He's sitting there so deep into pocket of folk who do not give a damn about you other than trying to pervert your family so there's no man around, no father to put toughness in the boys and decency in the girls. There's no two incomes coming into the household. Everything's chaos. And that's what he's supporting. He's supporting putting boys in sports bras and panties and going into the girls' bathrooms, toilet facilities, and shower rooms and competing against them in sports. That's what we're supposed to be getting out of black caucuses? Oh, like hell. But they get returned to office, and you have Maxine Wastewater out in California lecturing some homeless people. You're embarrassing. Go home. Why don't you go home, lady? What the hell you think we're out here for? We don't have a home. See, that kind of stuck on stupid. Or you get so desperate, they even decided to get a fake Negro that they wanted to pledge allegiance to. It's absolutely obscene. And most people in the world look at that and they don't say, oh, they're really oppressed. They say they're some damn fools. Why don't they get their stuff together?
Well, Judge, you talking to someone that is working behind closed doors. All of that don't matter to me. I'm about as a group of us actually. So I want to see if you are willing to collaborate with us because we are attempting to get a bill together and make sure that we are delineated as freedmen
What do
and
you
we
need
start
that
having our
shit for?
resources
I'm
for
trying
us
to
and
tell
set up
you
offices.
that is part of the problem. You don't need that shit. Quit wasting
Yes,
your
we do,
time, or
because
you do not.
others are getting
You
our
do not.
resources.
If you get your shit
We want
together,
our
then
own
stuff
stuff
will
and we
come to
want them
you.
out of our
Look, excuse
pocket.
me. Stop wasting time on that garbage.
You
Spend
don't think
time,
we need specific
spend time
legislation, Judge?
organizing to get your economics together instead of
That is
wasting
a part of
time
the
on a political
economics.
system that doesn't give a damn for you because you won't invest consequence. You deliver
Right.
what they
We
want
want to mirror
anyway.
we want to mirror the Bureau of Indian Affairs, Judge Joe Brown.
Why the hell do you need it?
We need to make sure
Why?
that we have our offices for our
Why?
resources so we can build our
Why?
own
You
towns.
don't need that. See, you already defeated because your mind is poisoned and you think you need that to get somewhere. You don't need it. You can do it on your own. A lot of people have. Do you think they had an office, since we were talking about it, to assist
Yes, they have
poor
Office of
underprivileged
Immigrants,
black
right?
basketball players so they could make it in the NBA, or black athletes so they can make it in the NFL or Major League Baseball? Or did they play within the rules that were already there and just show by their merit that they were part of the thing? You don't go around whining about they need to have a special office for us so we don't have a problem. You don't have any more problems than these newbies have who come in here and use the system to their advantage. We're spending so
So
much
how do
time
we
trying to get
okay,
favorable
so
rules that we forget to use what's there.
let me make sure I'm understanding. You're saying that we should not make sure that we have our own offices for our people so that we can build out our own and make sure we have our resources for so people can come and make sure that they get and are aware of these resources and can set them up, as well as making sure they get land patents and things of that nature. We don't need that.
You can do it without the government getting involved. If the government's got to teach you your culture and how to do it, you're already whipped.
But everybody else
No,
is getting that
everybody
with the
else
government.
doesn't. The
The office
government only deals.
of
The government only deals with success and
Office of New
perseverance.
Americans is all over the United States of
That's
America.
because they come in and they deliver consequences, and the people they represent have been in hot shooting matches with the United States of America over the last 70 years.
So they are getting jobs, resources, training, and all of that to make sure they are successful.
They
You're saying
aren't
that
being given
that
those
freemen
things.
should
Look,
not do the same
they
thing.
aren't given those things. They go and exploit those opportunities. We don't take advantage of the opportunities. We're asking for somebody to do it for us. That's like a 35, 40-year-old boy living with his parents down in the basement because he can't make it in the world as a grown man.
Can
I'm
I 1 second,
confused.
sway me 1 second? Great conversation. I agree with the judge what he's saying, but I understand what you're saying. But just for a quick example, where I'm at in Ohio, this man, it could have been a group of them, but they purchased a building and they're calling that building Africa Village, right? And of course, he's an African immigrant. The city or the state didn't give him money to purchase that building. You know, you save up your money and you purchase it. It could have been through auction or whatever. So what the judge is saying, use the laws and the resources that we have access to now to buy land or property in our community and build up social economic that way. Because when you have money and you have financial resources, that dictates who you vote in locally, you know, public policies. But you got to come with money, and to come with money, you got to build up the money. So a lot of these immigrants, they do work, save, and they reinvest it, and they work the system to get property and so forth. And then they allocate for public policies specifically for them. They don't necessarily get a handout. Now, the illegals that crossed the border under Biden, yeah, they was getting all types of handouts. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about the legal immigrants. So I hear what you're saying. I don't disagree. Like, yeah, we want to start creating policies specifically for us. But I think what a judge is saying, you need to change up the type of policies that you're asking for. Because what it sounds like you're asking for is, we want the government to pay us what is owed, instead of coming to the government saying this is what we want and we have the economic power to make it happen.
No. No, that's the misconception, I think.
Uh-huh.
We are saying that we are delineating as the founding population of Americans, freemen. And we want to make sure we have our own separate from, in a way, it's our government, right? Our office from the national on down. And then we are making sure we enumerate our people. We can go and purchase land, right, for our people. And then we make sure we're setting up our towns. We're making sure we're employing our people. And then
Oh,
we're
let me, okay,
creating our own
so when you
industry.
said Indian, so you're talking about you want to set up a separate sovereign for Black Americans.
In
Like,
a way, yes, similar, but we're not a sovereign nation, but we are a nation within a nation. So yes, in a way, yes, but we cannot continue to act like we have not fought and did certain things in this country for our people, like affirmative action,
all right,
and
so
then
real quick,
Mhm.
because I do have other hands and I am going to get to you
Okay,
guys.
okay.
So, Judge, so what she was saying as far as delineating and creating our own government, I so did you
Look,
want to reply?
yeah, I do. Look at where we do have our own government, the cities of America, and their shit. Because we, again, even in high places, cannot act like we have any common sense or any decency, we look at the opportunity to thieve from the people that elected you to put you in office to do something for them. The cities are hell. Do you want to move into something that's run by the same people that mess these cities up? I don't. And if you don't
Oh,
see,
sorry.
if you put and see the other thing, you don't want somebody like me in a position that would put me in, because I do some things to a whole lot of people. If you had a separate government situation, a separate nation circumstance for black people, I'd get it together. It wouldn't be like this in 5 years if I lived that long. But a whole lot of people would not like what happened in the process. So you don't want somebody like me to be in charge, because I'd quickly take it charge. See, you don't want
Well, then
that.
why
This
would we
country
want you
is
to be in
fine.
charge?
It's got great rules. It's just like the NBA, and I'm going back to the sports thing. The National Basketball Association, when I was born, was one of the most racist institutions in the United States. The rule books haven't changed much, but the year I was born, they brought in their first black basketball player. His name was Don Barksdale. He was an alumnus from the same university I was alumnus of, UCLA. The Lakers hired him. He came in and he was the first. Didn't anybody sit there and go through all of this, what they're going through right now, affirmative action to get him in? He just played like a champ, and he wasn't even a basketball player, because all the sports he had ever played until he graduated from UCLA was football, where he was an All-American, and ran track, where he had the 400-meter 440-yard record for the NCAA. So he came in because he was a hell of an athlete. Look at Paul Robeson. He graduated from law school, graduated from honors, when there was no such thing as affirmative action, back before World War One, at a major university. And he sang too, and he was an economist, and they've been posting it on X. One of his best friends in life was the Albert Einstein. So what the devil happened to us?
So hold that thought for a second. I'm gonna get. So I don't see Jay views. I guess he must have dropped down. So it's going to be Judge Sarah, Duncan, and Carrie, and then I'll swing back to the hands to Robert. Um, so go ahead, Judge Sarah.
Hey, Dana and Judge. And you know what, Judge Joe Brown, I came to ask a specific question, but I kind of want to engage you in what you were saying. Okay. And I do want to start with beginning to understand that you are the Honorable Judge Joe Brown, and I respect you as such. Um, my first encounter with you is you as a TV judge. And what I appreciate about you is how you were straight up, no nonsense, and had expectations for people. You said it how you meant it. You said it in the way in which I was raised. But with that said, what concerns me, Judge O'Brien, this is my social justice page. I have multiple pages. I've got multiple businesses. I'm on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, I don't have this experience. So what I'm trying to say is, when people say, "Oh, the black church," or athletes are the only elite, Judge Joe Brown, I've not been in Compton. I don't know South Central. I live in the suburbs around immigrants and Hacienda Heights. So that experience, I don't know, and I'm a black person. What concerns me is how we are socially engineered to believe things that may not be the case for all of us. Because I hear what you're saying, and I fully get. In this community, there is a lot of woe with me, the white man, the other man, the other man. I get that. But I think a lot of it has to do with being socially engineering and resharing those thoughts. For example, you spoke about white trash. There is clearly white trash, but you don't see white people promoting white trash on social media. Does that make sense to you, Judge Joe Brown? So what I'm trying to say, I
That's
hear
part of
what you're
what I
saying.
was saying, is you don't see that, but we do that.
No, but I'm talking about the perception, because I heard everything you said, and I preface that with my my first encounter with you was a black man that says it how were you speak in the way in which I was raised. So I always honored you. When I would watch you and listen to you speak, you were always fair, but you were no nonsense. You said it how it's supposed to be. You said it the way in which I was raised. And why I'm saying that, because what concerns me is how black people are characterized. Um, is that the case? Okay, in this community, it is. Judge Joe Brown. I go to LinkedIn. I gotta stop coming here because this is really kind of depressing for me. It's sad. I'm on LinkedIn, and it's many black professionals. My whole circle are black professionals. We're not what America tries to frame us to be. To give you another example, black men were very much responsible for electing Donald Trump. He even acknowledges that. But when we hear it amongst our community, they won't even acknowledge that black men were very instrumental in having our president elected. They don't even know or have, they don't know themselves to take credit. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like all of what you said, I think is perception. Does that make sense? I know that exists. Okay. I've not been in that environment. Like they say about the church is doing this, the church is doing that. Judge Joe Brown, I watch Joe Osteen, so I don't know what the church is doing that y'all talking about. Are
Well,
you getting where I'm going with this?
I don't disagree with you,
Yeah,
but
I
you
think
have
it's
to
it's
make the next step, which is all of the above is true. Now, what do you do about it?
what it is. Our fate is linked, and I think that purposely, it's socially engineered to believe certain things. It gets kind of deep for me, Judge Joe Brown. I'm very sensitive about it because it's like my people, or it's like a beautiful girl and she don't know she beautiful. How they treat us is how perception is reality. If you feel like you're nothing, you're nobody, you're second or inferior, they're gonna treat you as such. Does that make sense, Judge Joe Brown? Anyway, I'm on my 10. I just wanted to address what you said, but I got a question for you. How do you feel about Grant Cardone running for governor of California? Do you know him? Did I lose
Judge,
you?
you're muted.
I was fumbling with the mute button.
That's okay. But what do you think about oh, okay. With that said, I was just listening to you, and I hear a lot of that about my people. But I'm trying to tell you that's not. When I go, I have different personas. I have got a fashion persona. I'm doing a real estate business, and there are people who look like me in every arena that I'm in, and that is not their case. They're not looking for someone to
Well,
give them
let me ask you a
something.
question.
Mhm.
Did a Nazi in World War II look much different than a Brit in World War II, or look much different than a Frenchman in World War II, or the typical American soldier in World War II?
No, but they had cultural ties,
No,
Judge
no.
Joe
Listen
Brown.
to
You know
listen
that
to
they spoke. That they
listen
had
to
to
me.
say spoke the
Listen
same
to me.
language. They
Listen
had the
to
same
me.
culture.
Listen to me. What?
Our fate
Listen
is
to
linked,
me.
Judge Joe Brown.
They were at
Yes,
war
sir.
with each other.
I
Millions of
understand. That's
people.
America.
Listen,
That's the world we
listen.
live. That's
Just
human beings.
listen. Millions of people died, and it had nothing to do with their paint job. They killed each other with alacrity, and they looked just alike. So the
Hmm.
paint job doesn't have much to do with your circumstances past the point. Now, if you happen to be somebody white 300, 400 miles from what you call civilization down in the Congo, yeah, you might get done in.
Hmm.
But point of the exercise is that black folk, Negroes, tend to keep making everything about the appearance when it is not.
I
It's
hate that you
got to
say
do
that.
with other things besides appearance.
But I feel like you're framing us to be that. If you know Javon Price, he's well
I
spoken.
don't
He
know
does.
and don't care
No,
who
I
the
just
hell he is.
you're
What
framing.
does that
What I
got to
feel
do
like, I
with you?
respect
Tell me
you.
what
I
you're thinking, not what he says. I don't
Okay,
know
no,
him.
I'm giving you an example. You know what? I preface this where you are the Honorable Judge Joe Brown, and I respect you. And so, what you say for me, I understand it's law. I have to respect you because that's who you are. But I said that because I want you to be open, have an open mind to as to what I'm saying. Okay, what I hear you saying, you're framing us to be something that many of us are not.
Why
Okay,
aren't you?
because we weren't raised that
Why
way.
what the hell weren't we
Unfortunately,
raised
okay.
that
So
way?
Judge Joe Brown,
What
I see you're not
everybody
gonna.
else comes here and raises
No,
themselves that
Judge
way.
Joe
What's
Brown. I
wrong
don't.
with us?
I think you
People
want to
were
have
in these
conflict.
places that Trump called shitholes. and they come
I'm
here
not. I'm
and
not
they can
disagreeing
make
with
it.
you, sir.
So what's the
I'm
point?
not disagreeing with you.
Okay,
I'm.
now that I
What
get
I'm. What
angry
my
about it.
problem is
Do
you're
you know
framing
what
us
we
to
need
be
to
that.
understand?
You're saying the things you're saying about us is not all of us. I
I
don't
know
have
it's
my
not
hand
all of us,
out for
but you know what
anybody
they
to
say?
give me
If the
anything.
shoe
I
does
don't live
not
for
fit,
crumbs. What the government gives
Wait,
people to live on is
Judge Howard,
laughable. I'm not looking for crumbs.
listen to
Okay.
me.
So
Listen to me.
and so you're not
Listen to me.
listening.
I'm
What I
listening.
heard you
I
Judge
say a
hear
Sarah,
this
specific thing
all the
about.
Judge
time.
Sarah,
Look,
please just
for
mute up.
the
Let
last
him talk, then you
the
talk.
last 36 years since I got elected as a judge for the first time, I have been hearing this over and over and over by people who have demonstrably failed badly. And I
So
took,
talk about the ones who are
stop
winning.
a second.
Talk
Stop
about the
a
ones who are
second.
winning, sir.
I did
I can tell you about the ones who are
look.
winning.
In
You want to talk
19,
about.
excuse me, 2004, the studio did a little gag thing, and they decided to look up all the people I dealt with. They stopped when they got to 84,000 people that I dealt with in my career at that point, and that was, excuse me, 22 years ago. Now, we will go on from there. What I'm trying to say is in the real world, where it isn't all theoretical, I heard the same thing over and over and over again, and it did not work. It was guaranteed failure. What I did is when I got on the bench, I went and quickly used my position to get all of the information on what they call recidivism. How many people come back with another felony series after they're convicted of the first round of felonies? It was 84%. It was the same as it was 25 years before when I ran the public defender's office in Memphis. It was the same when I retired, when I got this show, or had been doing the show for some years because I had so much built up leave because I didn't take leave. Now, what the secret was that let me reduce 84% recidivism down to 18% in my courtroom that was dropping when I retired 25, 26 years ago was this. It was very simple. There's nobody to blame for your situation but yourself. And other than that, sometimes bad luck.
All right, so I want to move to another speaker.
No, I want to ask him a question.
No, I gotta
He went on a
hold
whole
on,
tangent, not about what I was asking about. Why can't I ask him the question?
hold your questions until I come back around because there are other people that have been waiting patiently. The bill between Judge and Sweeney, that was a good bill. So sometimes you gotta let that happen. So I need to get to other speakers and I'll swing back for people to have their last thoughts. So J Views, you came back up. So I'm gonna go to J Views, Duncan, Carey, and Exodus. And just for the record, the judge he's not talking about individuals. Um, he wasn't talking about Sway Me personally or individual Black people. He's talking about Black people collective. All right, so let me unmute 1 second. Go ahead, J View. J View, yeah, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello? Okay. So everybody in Florida, vote Byron Donalds. Anybody in Texas, vote Wesley Hunt. Those are your guys. My question is voter ID constitutional?
Is that a question or a statement?
I took it as a question. Article 1 of the Constitution leaves the qualifications for voting for certain offices up to the states, as long as they do not infringe upon the general federal qualifications, most recently stated in the amendment that allows women to vote. Now, there's nothing wrong with identifying that you're entitled to vote. Problem is we had a pretty easy way of establishing that. Most states you registered to vote, through the Department of Motor Vehicles. Some states, you got your handgun carry permits through them. But California, New York, and a few other states decided that they were going to be helpful and start issuing driver's licenses to known aliens. That destroyed the concept of the driver's license being a valid way of identifying somebody. Now you're kind of left with a passport or one of these new real ID driver's licenses with a star up there, which most recent requires a birth certificate to get. But the problem on that is, what happens if somebody doesn't have a driver's license, but they've got a U.S. passport? Well, a lot of the states are saying we need ID that has your address on it so you can vote. What happens when you are well off and you might have more than one residence or more than one property in a city or municipality or county, where you can use any of them for purposes of registering to vote and live any damn where you feel like it? See, there are complications, so it's not just necessarily that simple. But sincerely, one of the problems is I've never seen such a collection of dishonest people so prone to trying to run cons on everybody in my life. And I've been dealing with criminal law for the last 50 years. It's really crazy. So one of the problems that I'm seeing right now on X, on this space, on in the past and everywhere, is everybody wants references because they don't trust the speaker necessarily, and a lot of times they don't need to. And they don't trust humanity, so they want the comfort of seeing something in writing, but what's in writing these days may not be any more reliable than what somebody just says off of the top of their heads. And we keep getting, have you heard or read something? No, I haven't read that person and don't care to, because it's been 40 years since I last read something from somebody that actually contributed to what I think about what's going on right now, because they don't get it. And what the market is for right now is writers who pander to folk who think you're victims. You need to suffer. You need to get somebody to understand your plight. That's not how men think. It's crazy. You want to know what the problem is, and then you start dealing with what you do to solve it, not depend on somebody to do it for you. That's like a child. And this whole society, white, black, brown, red, yellow, it is so childlike now. Nobody has to grow up, and its expectation is somebody's supposed to take care of you. But the world doesn't work that way, because the world doesn't give a damn. And it will do you in if you come up with that. Now, what are we going to do in response to that kind of thing? Are we going to keep going on? And like Einstein said, since we brought him up, to keep doing something the same way over and over again with the same indicia of failure is a sign of insanity. So the only way it works is if you're willing to take on the burden yourself, to be brave and courageous and face adversity with your back straight and your head up. You're not going to get anywhere in this society. This is a violent country. It grew up in a frontier where people were desperate and killed each other, and the environment killed even more people. And you had some folk that resented the hell out of the fact that some other folk were trying to take over their territory. And that's what made this country good, because even if you did find yourself at the intellectual or economic top, you still had courage to go fight for what you were trying to establish. Now we don't have that. So I keep saying, go back to fundamentals. It's about bravery, courage, and character. And if you don't have that, you won't get anywhere. Nobody's going to make up for it.
All right.
It
Oh,
is
I'm sorry.
dangerous being alive on this planet. There's stuff that'll kill you from the inside. There's stuff that'll kill you from the outside. You could get hit by lightning, tornado, hurricane, tsunami, typhoon, You could get hit by a large enough chunk of hail, and people die every year. Get hit by too big of hail pieces. You could have a snake bit you. You could get deaded in an earthquake, a forest fire, any kind of things. It's dangerous. You could be out there wanting to play with your kids at the beach and get done in by a shark. So, I mean, there's nothing that's safe in this planet's place. We drive big 4,000 pound vehicles, 5,000 pound vehicles. It's 70 miles an hour, and the slightest miscalculation could mutilate you or kill you or others. But we, for the convenience, are willing to put up with the collateral consequences. We have to start dealing with the fact that everything is like that. And the only way it is even reasonably safe is by your own, only way it's reasonably safe is by your own efforts when you make it temporarily that way and you stay vigilant so it doesn't relapse. Now,
All right.
we need to I did not hear this when I was in college about what can somebody do for you. It was get the hell out of the way and we can do it. Anybody, black, white, brown, red, yellow.
All right.
But now I
Oh,
don't get it. It's this
can you hear me, Judge?
glorification of dysfunction.
Can you hear me?
And who's going to do it?
Oh my
DEI,
Judge, can you
diversity,
hear me?
equity, and inclusion. Not because of merit, but because you just happen to be what you are, and you think that's
Jay, can you
unfortunate,
hear
and you
me?
think somebody owes you something.
I can hear
Well,
you.
while too
He
many
can't
are
hear
being
me.
DEI,
Ask
other
the
folk
judge
who
if
just
he
got
could hear
legal in
you.
this country because they just came here,
Can you hear me?
they are saying,
No.
we know reality. And we have a great opportunity in this country that all of these other fools are neglecting because they think everything is so bad for them. They just maybe they need to go live where we came from and see what
All
really
right,
bad
Judge.
is.
Judge.
And they miss all of the opportunities that they
I'm gonna
have
have to
because
drop
they're
him down.
expecting somebody to do it for
All
them.
right.
We need to take lessons from the newly arrived who are legally here.
All right, wait a minute. Judge, I had to drop him down because he can't hear us. And so he's just I don't think he doesn't hear me. He doesn't hear anybody. So come back up, Judge, if you can hear me. Because you can't hear. I don't and this space is I'm literally shutting it down at midnight. I'm not going beyond midnight. And I have to get to Duncan, Carrie, Exodus, and yeah. Give me 1 second. Sure. Oh, wait, let me bring you up. And let me invite him to speak. What is this?
Hello, good evening,
Yeah,
everybody.
can you mute up? Sure, I'll just mute up. Judge, can you hear me?
I hear you, but I was listening to a recording of myself talk before you just spoke.
Yeah, you couldn't hear us, and only thing you were talking. I mean, it was good stuff, but you couldn't hear us, and I was trying to intersect because I want to get to another speaker because people have been sitting here
Well, I was
waiting.
about to finish, but
All
yeah,
right, so let me get to another
I'm finished.
speaker. I
Go
want to
ahead.
get to Duncan. Go ahead, Duncan.
Yes. Good evening to everybody on the stage. And it's a blessing to be in the space with the Honorable Judge Joe Brown. I do agree that they are not they have not been hostile towards us because of our complexion. But I think the part that Judge is missing is not. I know specifically from my viewpoint, it's not the complexion part that I'm talking about. It's about the fact that we come from the lineage of slavery and Jim Crow, and our government has had a consistent pattern of behavior of terrorizing my group of people. Now, you can be callous to it and act as if it's something I'm imagining or something like that. I even agree with you that we should not have a separatist movement. If America would stand true to its laws, we would have a great nation. Um, it's not like once Jim Crow ended, all of the terrorism and government sanctioned atrocities ended at that time. He is from California. I know he knows about the Iran Contra scandal and how the government pushed drugs in our community. They had a whole thing about that out there in California.
Hello?
But
Is
we,
anybody there?
Okay, so Judge, can you hear anybody?
Anybody
Hold on for a
there?
second, Duncan. Just hold for a second. I'm gonna come right back to you.
all right.
Judge, you're gonna have to go all the way out and come back in. It's his phone. I know it's not. I know it's not me because other people can hear me and they hear me clear. It's him. Judge, you have to go all the way out. Just give him a second. Go.
And I can continue until he comes back if you don't
Well, did
mind
you
though.
want him to hear you?
Yeah, well, yeah, he can hear me, but
No, he
I
can't
don't
hear you.
think
That's
he's
what I'm saying.
will.
So I don't know.
I don't think he's willing to hear me,
No,
to be
he
honest.
well. Here's the thing. He is going to hear you. That's why I was saying wait for him to come back. But this
Okay.
the thing. He doesn't have to agree with you. See, you could. He listens to people. And this is his space. This is not my space. Tuesdays is his space. He listens to people. That doesn't mean he has to agree with you or that he's going to agree with you. Those are two different things. Just because somebody doesn't agree doesn't mean they're not listening or understanding what you're saying. Because some of the stuff
Yeah,
you're saying,
but it's not.
Duncan, some of the stuff you're saying, Duncan, I hear you. Yes, those
Mm,
things did happen, but I would my rebuttal to that, and when I and where I'm
mm.
coming from in 2025 and in the future, what are we doing today? Yes, that happened to our ancestors, our lineage. I wasn't born then, but the things that
The
wait, one
Iran
second, one
Contra
second,
scandal,
one
you was
second, one
alive
second,
during
Duncan,
that
one
time.
second, because the contraband ain't happening today. Crack has not been an epidemic for some decades now. Did
Oh,
it, hold on for a
It
second,
destroyed
did
us.
it hurt the black community? Yes, it did. Now it's time for us to repair that. Crack ain't on the streets like it was. So again, if you, and this is, I'm generalizing, this is not specifically to you or anybody else, if you don't have a plan on how to get shit done today, I don't want to hear that shit from what happened in the past. Because if you're going to talk about the past, what needs to be followed up is a plan for today and the future. That is how you don't repeat the past. And that conversation is not being had in no spaces. There are people doing the work with their organizations locally. They're putting a lot of time and effort in. I'm not talking about that. But I'm talking about when we are having these discussions and everybody, and I'm coming to you, Duncan, but everybody has a right to believe what they believe and express their perspective and their ideology. But make no mistake about it, when I push back or say I disagree or have a different opinion, that doesn't mean that, I'm dismissing what you're saying. We just have a different way of looking at things. So what you're saying is accurate. Those things did happen to us. So now what? That's what I'm getting at. But go ahead, you have the floor.
Yeah, and it's not that I'm saying that I don't think that it's things that we could do to combat government sanctioned atrocities, right? Where the government had its hand in undermining our communities, even up to modern times. Because I'm at the age I don't look at the cocaine and the crack epidemic as bad. And I also want to say that we don't have the platform a lot of these legal immigrants have. You're talking about the Saudis. The Saudis can come over here and build up communities. They got billions upon billions of dollars in oil money. You talk about the Chinese on the skyline of the LA. You're talking about China. They have a platform like China to come over here and do these type of things. And I'm not gonna hold up in comparison the newly arrivals to try to shame the descendants of slaves because really the newly arrivals are the one that brought the degeneracy. Before the Italians came over here, the mafia came over here. You're talking about black communities that there was an agricultural society. They went to church, came home, and worked. That's what they did. But when those newly arrivals came over, they brought over that degeneracy, they brought over the murder, they invented the drive-bys, and all this type of stuff. And now that they have influenced our culture so greatly, right, where everybody want to be a mobster, we got to act like it's something that we did. No, it's not. And I can't pretend that the crack epidemic was a long time ago because it's not. We just had trap music. Trap music probably been out just for a few years, where they went into drill, right? But that was not a long time ago. But now is it to say poor me, we can't do nothing? No, not at all. What we can do is galvanize around what they owe me. Cause I'm the type, if you owe me money, special field order number 15, if you owe me money, I'm not the type that gonna sit up and say, "Oh, I'm gonna let you have that." No, give me my money, right? In
So let me ask
fact,
you a question.
that
Let me ask you a question real quick, Duncan. So
okay.
are you saying that the objective for Black Americans should be where's my money, or should the objective be um what is it that we have to do to repair our community ourselves?
Well, the thing is, I think it's a multifaceted approach.
No, and
Um,
so this is where me and you differ. It's not to me, because you cannot claim to be a victim and a victor at the same time. You got to pick one. If you want to be a victim, be a victim. If you want to be a victor, be a victor. And what does that require? That requires a different objective of not you owe me something. It's more like this is what I need right now to build up my community or to get whatever done, and
mhm.
I'm going to get it done by any means necessary. And then I'm going to dictate to you, Mr. Government, or whoever, that I need resources for blah 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 blah. But again, that's why I said it's the objective is to get a check from the government, or to start allocating and building things ourselves.
Well, I think when I responded, you tried to box me into a response that you didn't agree with. I said it's a multifaceted approach, meaning we should like me. I'm an owner operator. I own my own truck. I'm an independent contractor, right? I'm not just sitting around waiting on the government to give me a check. Every time you talk to me, I'm at work, right? My great grandfather, he has his own town, William Duncan. We had our own town called Duncanville, Alabama, right? We have built things. We got stuff. I got land. I got all type of stuff because my folks work hard, and then I work hard to buy my own truck. I'm always at work, so it's not that I'm just sitting around waiting on a check. So I can't allow anyone to box me in and say, "Oh, I'm just sitting around waiting on a check." But what I am saying, Dana, in respect to you and the judge, what I am saying to try to combat this, we have galvanized around the issue of reparations, right? And we're saying that, hey, you owe us. The issue of reparations is the foundation of the Republican Party, right? In the beginning of the Republican Party, that we are the root of the Republican Party. So what I'm saying is, I want to take back what was ours before the Southern strategy and say that, hey, let's get back to the abolitionist party, that type of mindset. But this whole type of mindset that me as an American citizen should have no expectations from a nation I'm a part of is ridiculous. I want the people that talk like that start talking about cutting foreign aid out altogether. If you're gonna say fuck, excuse me, if you're gonna say forget me and my claim, say forget foreign aid first, please. Right? Because they the ones that want a handout. And then these people, like I said, and I'm gonna land by this. These people come from a country that have oil money. They come from countries like China. You come from countries like Mexico that have a multi-billion-dollar drug trade annually, and you want to compare us to them? You got to be out your mind. And even the UN acknowledges that the United States owe us, and the United States set up the UN. So you can't set up the United Nations, and the United Nations say you owe these people, but then you want to ignore it. No, because we really, when you're callous to a situation, you can find any excuse not to acknowledge the legitimacy of it. But the legitimacy of reparations is rooted in the Republican Party. And I don't care who agree with me or not. But hey, I still love and respect y'all. And respect y'all definitely, but I definitely agree with it. Disagree. And let me say this, and I'm done. The judge was right about one thing, but he needs to really pay attention to what we're talking about. We're saying that our complexion is not the problem. Because Africans come over here and they don't get treated like us. The West Indians, a lot of people come over here. No, the fact that we were slaves in this country, the United States has a history of being committed to mistreating our people from slavery, Jim Crow, to like I said, pushing drugs in our community. And you're talking about the same people that destroyed Russia in the Cold War, right? With propaganda. So if Russia could not, the whole USSR could not stand against American propaganda, how you expect people fresh out of Jim Crow to stand? The USSR couldn't even stand up against American propaganda. It's ridiculous, man. It's
Well,
ridiculous and careless, by the
well,
way.
real quick, Duncan.
Okay,
We're not
can
we're,
I
we're
can
not
I
fresh out of Jim Crow. I'm not.
can I can I
I'm not fresh
reply?
out of Jim Crow.
Can,
My mama,
may
I'm the
I
first one.
reply?
I
I'm
am.
not.
My mama,
May I
everybody before me
reply?
was in Jim Crow.
May I reply?
So I am.
May I reply? Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes,
Okay,
sir. Yes, sir.
now
I went on Mike out
my
of respect. Yes,
maternal
sir.
grandfather was born in 1850. His father was kidnapped after the slave trade was officially over in 1806 from Nigeria. So my grandfather was about as dark as you can get as a human. He was born in time to actually request restitution that General Sherman granted 40 acres and a mule. He was supposed to get married, but he was okay to receive it. He didn't get it because he and his would be wife broke up and he wound up marrying a Native American, a Choctaw, my grandmother. All right. He and an uncle murdered two deputy sheriffs for participating in a lynching of another uncle. That grandfather became a physician and practiced medicine for more than 50 some years, and Alex Haley's grandfather was his partner for years. All right. Now, I grew up in South Central Los Angeles because my old man, who did the war, was 35 when he got out after the end of World War II. He used the GI Bill and he got it together, worked his butt off, but he wanted to give back. So he started teaching school. A lot of black men did then because they wanted to prepare the next generation. Okay. We stayed in South Central Los Angeles. Didn't have to, but we did. Eventually, it just got to be too many burglaries and other things going wrong. We moved to the Crenshaw area, okay? Went to Dorsey High. Well, I didn't do too badly with the grades because I'd always stuck myself in the library. I had 7 homies I grew up with, and all but one of them either got murdered or died in a penitentiary, and that guy died of a heart attack from overwork. And all of these years that I've been alive, the most racist experience that I ever encountered was working in Hollywood, that all of the black folk let set the tone and give them the ideation on what's right and wrong. That was the most racist place I'd ever worked. But in spite of that, if you go to Wikipedia, you will find that I was the highest paid man in all of Hollywood outside of Leslie Moonves, who was CEO for CBS. So I was getting paid more than all the white folk in a horribly racist situation because I didn't give a damn about trying to appeal to anybody. I just made it so they had to deal with me. I put some things in place. I manipulated the system because I wasn't a young, foolish fool. I was a grown 50-plus-year-old man who'd been dealing with all kinds of heavyweight situations. Speaking of which, I got the youngest person in the world on death row off. It was back in the 1980s. It was in front of the Arkansas Supreme Court. He got convicted by an all-white jury. He was 15 years, 2 months when I got a stay of execution 23 minutes before they were going to do him in. And I got him acquitted unanimously. One of the grounds was he got convicted by an all-white jury. Okay? I was the most watched man in America for about 6 or 7 years. For 5 of those years, Oprah Winfrey's supposed to be the superstar. I was beating her every week in the rings. The only somebody who was coming along equal to me was Judge Judy, and we were in the same unit. There was a guy named Roger King. He's now dead, but he discovered Oprah. He told me because we got to be friends. He's a big 6'4" tall, formal, pro football lineman. He said I was auditioning. I auditioned at least 350 women.
Judge, just to let you know, I do got to get to other
I
speakers.
know, but I'm going to be through in a minute. I'm making a point here about victimization. And he said, I was looking for a poster child for ugly female stay at home America, and I picked Oprah. I made all her money for her. She didn't do it. I picked all of her book club stuff. She didn't do it. I discovered Dr. Phil and gave her the credit. He said, but they're mistreating you because you were a straight black man. I don't like it. So he and I collaborated. My agreement with him was I would talk to his daughters and tell them what time it was because he was worried about them. I did. And we collaborated on this thing. So, in spite of me working for what I thought in my life, long as it is, isn't the longest, but it's long enough, being the most racist place I'd ever worked, I prevailed because I didn't go along with their system. I didn't get the PR. Oprah's the superstar, not me, even though I beat her in the ratings. I was the Negro that nobody paid attention to. We like to watch Judge Joe Brown, but they didn't know that I was the highest paid man, black or white, in all of Hollywood. But one, but that's that. I don't have it now because I lost it in a divorce some years ago. But it is what it is. So you might want to listen to what I'm telling you about how to deal with adversity. It never works when you expect somebody to do for you what you can do for yourself. And that is the rule to success. And that's why these people who look like American black folk come over here and make it because they don't rely on somebody doing it for them. All they want is to apply the rules of the game and have a fair referee, and they can do it for themselves. So every time, all night long, I've been listening, and I'm going to finish with this. All night long, I've been listening to people say one version or another about why somebody owes it to us. That doesn't work. If you can't drag them into court and go through a lawsuit or do what some other folk do, put a gun to their head and say you're going to do it, it doesn't count. You're just bitching. So if you can't do anything about enforcing your demands, then get over it and spend your time trying to make it by yourself or with collaboration with other folk who are similarly situated and similarly motivated. And that's the
All right.
only way it works. I pass.
I want to get to Carrie and then Exodus, Sherelle. I'll swing back to you, Robert, and then Duke, and then that'll be it. Go ahead, Carrie.
Thanks, Dana. Hi, Judge Joe Brown.
How are
I'm okay. I'm a little disturbed, I think. My issue is that okay, with all the social stuff and all this, it's details. There are health disparities that are being ignored, and there are lots of studies that show disaggregated data between us and people from other countries here, and we're the only ones having the health disparity. The other outcomes are statistically the same as white. Okay, so it's very clear that we're being treated in a special way. And I wanted to know, how long are we supposed to kind of let that happen before either contacting the authorities? I mean, I don't think that's something that we could negotiate or deal with in-house or something, because right now we're being mistreated in these hospitals and people are dying because of it.
How long are you going to put up with it?
How long should we? Isn't
No,
that something
that's
that
up
we
to
should
you.
be
How
very
long? How long do you choose to put up with it?
well, we usually get the advice that we need to stay in the house with the abuser. That's kind of the advice that people give us
Well, you
whenever we
gonna
start to
listen
bring
to
these
it if
things
it
up.
doesn't work out for you?
I don't know. I'm curious as to why everybody has the same sort of advice for us to be quiet or to not confront people or to not, defend ourselves.
I
You
I
know,
wouldn't tell you that. But then
Okay.
again, see, people don't like what I say. You can hear it right now on this site tonight. It's cost me in the last 2, 3 years about 3.5 to $4 million that I lost out because I wouldn't keep my mouth shut. But you see, it isn't all about money. And if you make it all about money, then you have biblical reference, Quranic references,
Well,
Talmud
how do we build our own
references.
hospitals? How do
Well,
we
why
fix
don't
that
you? And
problem?
why, by the way, why don't you
Hmm,
get on the
Need
kids
money.
about sitting at the kitchen table doing your homework instead of playing basketball so you can be physicians, get the high incomes, and start opening up the hospitals? You don't like what's going on, do the same thing. Sit across the kitchen table and make them do the homework. There's no white racist sitting on the other side of your kitchen table. And make your child do the homework. And if you don't know what he's doing, then learn and get him encouraged to be a lawyer so he can manipulate the system in favor of his people and his family. See, we have all these
It,
opportunities. I went to law school more than 50 years ago. When I got in UCLA, there were 15 people black who got admitted the year I got in, and there were 62,000 full-time students. There were 72 undergrad black students out of 62,000 students. So that was bad because in 1936, where Jackie Robinson, the baseball player, was at UCLA, Don Barksdale, the first NBA player who was black, was at UCLA, and Kenny Washington, the first black man to play in the pro football leagues with the NFL with the Rams, was at UCLA. There were more black people in the 1930s at UCLA than in the 1960s. So do you think that held me back? No, I went on and said the devil with it. I can do it. And
do
that's
you
what
think
you have.
delineation is going to help
What
us achieve those sort of
Yeah,
things?
you have to look at it a certain way. See, I ran sight games on my legal opponents in court in front of juries. And I'm looking at them. I didn't have to for my major, but I took a whole lot of classical psychology. And I'm looking at this. It's a sight game being run. And we make ideal victims. And we don't even realize it because what we want is what our adversaries want us to want. In other words, the parable, since we are always supposed to be Christians, is you can feed a man a fish or teach him how to fish so he can feed himself. And we keep wanting to get fed that damn fish rather than learning how to fish and feed ourselves. We will not learn. Not all of us are that way, but too many. It's become the ideation, the popular thing to do. It's reflected in our music and entertainment. And speaking of which, we don't even need to be proud of that. The music is stagnated. The same thing has been going on for 40 years, where for the last 200 years in American culture, a musical trend lasts about 9.5 years. We've been responsible for one that's lasted 40. It's lame, it's boring, it's tired, and it's dysfunctional. We have jumped into the thing of glorifying dysfunction, and we don't even recognize functionality anymore. You can overcome adversity. I won't keep my mouth shut. I could make a lot more money if I'd shut up and just go along to get along. But I won't because it's not the right thing to do. I
Well,
was
we're
the
trying to
last judge.
survive
Wait a minute. Well, you
diversity,
got to
right?
hear this. I was the last, I'm a judge, right? State judge, elected to 2 8-year terms. I'm the last judge on the James Earl Ray Martin Luther King thing. And I'm telling you, my research and what I got a hold of showed that the FBI supplied the murder weapon, recruited the 2-man hit team that shot him from the fire station, not the flop house. James Earl Ray wasn't even in Memphis. We haven't even tried to hold that to accountability, and we got charlatans like Chicken George, Al Sharpton, and Roly Poly Martin running around trying to deal with their false narrative. Okay?
Can I
Now,
interject
hold
something real
on one
quick?
hold on one other second. This is what I'm saying. See, it ain't safe. I'm judge. I'm the one that had the number one and number two syndicated show in America. making more money than any other man but Leslie Moonves, CEO of CBS in Hollywood. But a few years before that, because I was in the James Earl Ray thing, 5 people broke into my house at 3 o'clock in the morning. There was a shootout where 35 or 40 shots were exchanged. I'm trying to kill them. They're trying to kill me. I think I won and killed a few of them, but they didn't get me. So it ain't safe.
Hey, Judge, let me ask you this question. When do you, at what point, at what year do you?
Um, please don't get off your mic, and I'm about to wrap it up. So I don't know what you thinking, King, but I think you need to stay muted until I get to you. Ain't no I thinking you need to stay muted until I get to you. I wanted to interject something what Carrie was saying about the healthcare, because for a while, a long time, we had in the urban areas a lot of food deserts, and now I would say that we even still have a lot of healthcare deserts. Now, as far as black hospitals, that's a thing of the past. That's never going to happen again. First of all, there's never going to be a particular group having their own hospital here in America, because of how the healthcare system has just completely shifted, and it has nothing to do with race. It just have to do with health insurance companies and then the pharmaceutical companies that's dictating, the output and outlook of our healthcare system. However, though, whether it's community healthcare clinics or centers, which is very important, we definitely need that. But that's just not a black thing, because I just read an article about the state of Ohio, and now you have a lot of rural areas, and in this state that's predominantly all 90% white, they're having a healthcare crisis to where they're having a healthcare desert. So, but women, particularly black women, but black people, we have had that for some quite time. But to what you were saying though, when as far as taking people advice, I think we need to stop taking people advice, or stop letting people tell us what we need or what we should do. Start, if you know your community needs something, then people need to come together collectively, not just one person, because there's too many one person wanting to doing one person speaking for a group. And no, it has to be collective. A collective of people need to come together and push and organize for those resources, that we need in our communities to be allocated in our local communities. A prime example, for instance, is one quick example. My cousin, it was a while back, she was pregnant, and she wanted the baby, was carrying the baby, but it was an issue, and the baby ended up dying while she was carrying the baby. But instead of that hospital doing, which would be a DNC, because it was a dead fetus, they made her walk around with that dead fetus. For whatever I can't, I'm not going to go into all details. I'm just giving a quick summary of it. And she was devastated, because she could have got infection, she could have died or whatever, because that's highly dangerous, right? So instead of them going in and removing the baby, and I think she was probably in her late second and probably into the third trimester, instead of removing it, they made her walk around with it for a very long time. And I don't know if it had to do with an insurance thing. It was some type of bureaucracy, some bullshit. However, that was a major lawsuit. And that affects her to this day. So with the whole abortion thing, and Kamala Harris, that's what she was toting for her campaign. She was pro Kamala. And I'm like, what happened to you and what Kamala or this abortion thing is going on is two different things. But in her mind, because that was so devastating, that's how she equates it. And she's anti-Trump. Whatever, I get it. But I said to her, that's a major lawsuit and what do you call it? Negligence on that hospital. Why didn't you sue? She was like, I just didn't. And I think it's because the emotional distress that she was going through. I don't know if the father of the kid was there to support her, but I get it. You know what I'm saying? She really needed a community, whether it was her mom or whoever, to really be her advocate and speak for her when it came to the legal aspect, because that's a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. And if she would have presented or had a community to help her to present that lawsuit, to be her support system, she would have won. And what would have happened? They would have changed their policies on how they treat women, particularly Black women. Because I know in the state of Ohio, Black women maternally is a crisis here. And going back to what the judge was saying earlier, if we are not taking that initiative legally, because this is where it all happens when we want policy and policies to change. If we are not taking that initiative and working together as a community, we're never going to see any type of retribution, reparations, not retribution,
Institution.
restitution. Yes, restitution or reparations. We're not going to see anything, any progress. So just with that little act, if she would have just sued and won a whole lot of and that's on a specific local level, that would have made a world of difference. But I understand where her mind was at, but it should have been, she should have had a community of advocates pushing, and doing that for her, helping her with that. So I say all that to say the enemy that I believe that Black America is facing is us. So, and I'll yield. Who turn was it? Oh, it was Carrie. Carrie. So go ahead, Carrie, finish out. And then I'm gonna go to Sherelle, Robert, and then King.
Thanks, Dana. I just want to say that there is a big issue. We're not being given health care. It's something else. Our health care is not improving. It's getting worse, and our bodies are being destroyed. Put a barcode on it, make a list, check it twice. Whatever you got to do, you have to stop harming us in these hospitals. Thank you.
Totally agree with that. Definitely agree with that. Um, and actually, I need to have a whole space on that because it's a lot of it's there. There's health insurance and pharmacy in these hospitals. They're doing a lot of effed up stuff to all Americans that is sickening. Go ahead, Sherelle.
Yeah, so um, I'm hearing a lot of different discrepancies from this group in regards to some of the concerns, and I'm just so first, you know, uh, sincerely condolences to your friend's situation. I know that that's disheartening to hear that someone was that negligent in providing healthcare services to someone. And, uh, when we talk about Black maternal health, you want healthy babies, right? So, and if you are someone else that, that, if you're an individual that is dealing with these kinds of situations, um, you want to make sure.
Sorry. I pressed the mute button by accident. I was trying to bring
Um,
somebody up.
no problem. You're going to want to make sure that the healthcare system that you have access to good healthcare and quality healthcare, and there's different acts that are working on improving the quality of healthcare. Um, Now, right now, I know currently they're talking about how here locally they are trying to do away with the Health and Human Services program, and I'm not sure that that's the right decision because it harms so many different individuals who have to get access to healthcare through that system. And I know that there's been congressional talk on this issue and the decisions that um, individuals want to make as far as um, looking towards what should stay, what should go, what should be dismantled, what shouldn't be. But I just think that there's so many people getting access through that method of way that they shouldn't dismantle it. I also think that you know we need to recognize and approach healthcare in a manner where people feel comfortable getting access in quality care. I know that there's many hospitals doing the right thing, but when we hear stories like this, it's concerning to me, and I just think that we have to hold those who aren't doing right by folks who are getting access to care, and make sure that they're accountable for the negligence. And then also to speak towards what Judge Joe's talking about, he had mentioned the importance of having Black doctors and encouraging folks to step out there and get educated and get their doctoral, and to see that. And there are groups and organizations out there that definitely are African American. And there's huge coalitions of them that are physicians, and they're on social media and TikTok. You might not be as connected with those groups if you're not connected with different those specific organizations, but it's so important that we highlight Black excellence when you do see it and when it is occurring. Another thing is, if we want to expand that to different disparities in communities that often are at a disadvantage and encourage them, that's where the conversation and dialogue should be pinpointed, encouraging those who are often if they're socioeconomic status, if they're impoverished, et cetera, and they just haven't had the right mentorship to get into those areas and expertise. Now, the other concept that we have to recognize is ensuring that these hospitals, once these folks get their doctoral, that the hiring process there, so that there are people that look like us in those spaces to feel comfortable about getting access to care. It's not saying that other individuals who don't look like us give the same quality of care, because that absolutely is true too. I've got wonderful folks who I've seen firsthand provide some of the most efficient care. And so I don't want to deter that conversation either, but but I do understand the importance of seeing doctors that have acquired that, doctors that are African American acquire that expertise, and commend them on doing so.
Judge, I don't know what's going on. I see you as listener. Do you guys see him as listener as well?
Yeah, I see him as listener. I had a question for Judge though, but yeah, I see him as listener right now. But
All right. Well, let me go to Robert and then King and then El Hotep, and then I'm gonna close out. Robert,
Can you hear me?
yes.
Okay. My final question for the judge. I just wanted to say thank you to Dana, because I think I've asked like 3 questions. So thank you for allowing me to ask those. My last question is, we Trump just, when he recently got into office, signed the executive order declassifying a lot of the documents about the MLK assassination, and I've seen a lot of conservatives, especially like ones who are neoconservatives, and even some news media outlets saying the same thing, that it was James Earl Ray who shot MLK. So my question for you is, why do you think they still keep pushing that false narrative? And that's it.
It's ignorance. They don't know any better, and they relied upon the FBI to give them advisement on what happened, and the FBI was complicit in what happened. So that's one of the problems with all of this stuff on the recent assassinations and attempts at assassinations. The FBI, in a large number of instances, had something to do with it. It was a sick individual passing for white, J. Edgar Hoover, who really shouldn't have been in the position he was in. He was a real sick puppy.
Is
So,
it is it also true that they really started targeting Martin Luther King after he stopped talking about more about the race stuff, and he started more talking about like social classes? Is
well,
that
no,
true?
I'll tell you exactly what it is, because we are privy to see all this stuff that Trump said he's releasing got released 35 years ago, 34 years ago. The Congress in 1991 passed an act that authorized the provision of all records and investigations on assassinations or attempted assassinations to be furnished to a repository. Presidents George Herbert Walker Bush and William Clinton signed executive orders. So all of this stuff was sent to a repository on 14th and downtown 14th Street, downtown DC. I'd visited it on multiple occasions. We had the actual memoranda that were internal with the FBI where they were discussing whether or not King would be more dangerous as a dead martyr or as somebody who would galvanize the anti-war movement like he was perceived to have done the civil rights movement and revitalize labor. Though they didn't think about civil rights because civil rights was dead. All of the laws that were needed had been passed, and everything that was supporting the old way had been declared invalid. That's the same thing today. We don't have any laws that permit it, and people have been very successful, which is part of the problem. There's some other things going on besides what used to be. So when we got that, which is in the record, and tapes that are in the record, and a whole lot of other stuff, and I have secreted around the country in various places the serial number of the murder weapon. It was an XM21 that the FBI secured in late December 1967 upon invoice from the U.S. Department of Defense. They made 62 of them plus an extra barrel. They got 5,000 rounds of ammunition of the type identical with what they pull out of King's body. The ballistic analysis I had done when I ordered the rifle tested, exactly matches what got pulled out of King's body. And they got 5. Now, a week after King got assassinated, when the Justice Department ordered them to return the 5 weapons to the Defense Department, the FBI conducted an inventory and claimed it lost 1 weapon. That is the murder weapon, and I have the serial number. What they had done is there is a FBI training facility across the tarmac at the Marine base in Quantico, Virginia. There's also a sniper school. And somebody walked across the tarmac and recruited a 2-man team to kill King, which they did from the fire station, not the flop house, not the bushes. And if you look at the new exhibit that they have in the Civil Rights Museum, which, by the way, I helped start, you will find that they acknowledged that I was right. You couldn't even open the window wide enough to shoot a rifle out of it. And the thing about why people thought it came from the bushes is because the sound echoed off of the face of the Lorraine Motel. And FYI, Jesse Jackson had nothing to do with setting up King. It was another black preacher that did it because he had a little problem with being a pedophile. And J. Edgar was blackmailing him. I know who it is, but this is not the time to post his name. So that is a mess, real live mess.
All right.
Thank. Thank.
Oh,
Oh, one other thing too. Black folk love their Obamacare because they give it to this foreign entity that's supposed to be a homeboy, Barack Obama. And that is one of the most poisonous pieces of legislation I've ever read. It really F's up healthcare for the whole country. And his, meaning Obama's trust fund, which is centered in Indonesia and not subject to American law, has made a lot of money because it invested in Blue Cross. The founder of Blue Cross, our Dr. Bill Frist from Nashville, Tennessee, was the Senate Majority Leader at the time in 2003, and he drafted Affordable Care. He couldn't get it passed until Obama's trust fund invested heavily in Blue Cross. And in 2010, Obama got his weight behind it and it passed. So Obamacare is one of the most poisonous things that's ever been done to American citizenry. If you read the thing, you'll see it. Now, that said, we get a lot of wrong done to us because of circumstances that are directly the result of us supporting them. That's one of them.
All right.
And by the
Thank.
way, I'll say it again. George W. Bush, George Herbert Walker Bush, Barack Obama, Dick Cheney, Sarah Palin, who was John McCain's running mate for vice president, they're all cousins. Barack Obama's maternal grandfather was first cousins to President George Herbert Walker Bush, and their ancestor is an interesting individual, late of Cape Cod, Samuel Hinckley, Hinkley. Look it up. It's quite fascinating.
All right. I want to go to
So is this
King.
the is this the reason why Judge, what you just spoke on? Is this the reason why when they were having the presidential campaign race in 20, what was that, 16, I believe,
16.
when Ben Carson was running, and he told the people that, guess what, this Obamacare situation is what, the next thing best to slavery,
It
right?
is.
Because
It's horrible. They
absolutely, right,
subsidize the generic drug companies. They subsidize them. They screw the ones that come up with the legend drugs. Blue Cross Blue Shield, founded by Senator Frist family, founded Blue Cross and Blue Shield. They also control just about all of the generic drug manufacturers, and the whole act stacks to make all of them, every single family member, a billionaire in the next decade. It is a disgrace, and
Hmm.
absolutely. And let me
abomination.
let me ask you this right here, Judge, because I mean I want to ask a question to you. At what point, at what age, right, in your life and your great works that you do, I follow you. I mean, I'm familiar with your work, your family, your all your business, all your things that you do. At what point did you really just look at it like, okay, this is, yeah, this is something. There's something different going on here that we have to understand because
I can tell you when that happened with great alacrity. I was 5 years old. My mother had been working as a librarian with Tuskegee Institute down in Alabama. My old man had gone through law school at Howard, but he wasn't practicing law. We were driving back from Tuskegee to Jackson, Tennessee. We passed one of these sundown towns because the old man knew it was going to be a long stretch through dangerous racist territory, and we were just sun was just getting ready to go down. I had a Coca-Cola bottle, one of the small ones, sitting on my knee because my mother asked me to hold it. I was sitting in the back seat of this DeSoto and I was holding it. And this plunk came through the rear passage door on the driver's side and shattered the bottle. Went out the other side of the car. I heard the gunshots. My old man had been in the war. He was a sergeant when he came out of World War II. And we had talked about it. I said, "Oh, we're in war. Somebody's shooting us." So there were three shots fired. They were shooting at him, but they didn't lead him properly. They missed and almost hit me. And I said, "Oh, we got a war." And I was just so proud to be involved in this real life shooting war that since I've been five, which is 73 years ago, I have been involved in this war against this kind of mess. And I remember when I made that determination because I said it was a manly thing to be. When you had an enemy, you had to fight, and it was all bets off because they're trying to do you
absolutely,
in.
absolutely, especially when it's visible to you and you can see it in real time.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Another thing I wanted to point out to that sister that was saying about African American, right? And then Judge spoke about his African ancestor, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we're talking about our bodies and our way to heal ourselves, right? What we need to understand and know, right, is that just because you have a African or a few Africans, right, does not make you an African, right? When we're talking about healing our bodies and the people that are worthy of their bodies being healed, right? We have to understand what we're talking about, right? Just because, right? And yes, I have some. I mean, I live in the territory. You know what I'm saying? You know, my people have been here. You know what I mean? From Mississippi, Alabama, you know, Florida, you know, Maryland. You know, we have been here in this territory for a long time. Not all of my people, but a lot of my people, right? And what we and you know what I mean, the territory out here is different. You know what I'm saying? It's not just people from the east or the southeast. You know what I'm saying? It's people from the west as well. People from the north. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people that you know what I mean did not or were not willing to conform. That's how they got here. That's how a lot of our people got here, right? You know, so you know, I would just, you know, when our people are talking about these things and you know, and saying that okay, like, oh, you're this African American that these people then placed on you. Okay, yes, I'm not saying you may not have an African in your lineage, right? But that's why it's very important to know your lineage, right? Especially for these Gen Xers, late Gen Xers, right? Because you are the people right now that are tasked with what? Taking care of your elders, all right? You know, and making sure that your elders, right, are straight, you know what I mean, you know, going through their pathways. You know what I mean? That's where we're at right now. That's the reality of the situation. You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I mean, we encourage people to get to their lineage, get to their people, understand who their people is, what they is. That way, when you go into them hospitals, right, you know exactly what to tell the doctor or what not to tell the doctor or the nurse or whatever, because only thing they're gonna do is follow protocol. That's it, right? If you don't know what your people need or what they don't need or whatever, they're not there to tell you that type business because it's for you to know and get into who your people are, especially your mothers and your grandmothers, right? That's the
Let,
only way. Yeah.
let me say this. My grandmother was a Choctaw. We called her Mama Cherry because she was reddish. She used to laugh and she'd point her finger and say, all you colored folk, when you get done wrong, you get mad and get to crying and carrying on. My people, we took a scalp and nailed it to the lodge pole and we smiled. You got to understand what that means, but it'll be a long time before you people do.
Nice
Absolutely.
story. All right,
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
want to go. Wait, hold
And
on,
Hold on.
King.
that was a
Let
definitive
me
Hold on,
get
answer
King.
Elder
what's
Wait,
Bill.
wait,
going
wait,
on.
wait. 1 second. If you have a question, ask the question. I need to get to El Hotep,
All
and
right,
then
well,
we
hold
need to
on.
close out.
Let me say this last thing to the elder real quick, right? Elder, absolutely, I get it, right? And you know, my people with Tata, you know what I'm saying? The Chickasaw, the Creek, the Seminole, you know what I mean? The Powhatan, you know what I mean?
Yep,
They're
you
all
don't.
these
Your
things.
people ain't all those people. Just pick a
Hold
tribe.
on, listen. I see. That's where things went
I
wrong
don't want
at.
to talk about the
You know,
Indians.
yeah.
I don't want to talk about the
So
Indians.
we're talking about lineage right now. We're
I
not
don't want to
talking
talk about
about
lineage right now. I really
right.
want
So
to. I
you're
want to
saying
get
that
to
this one
King.
people just come on. We're not.
King, I want to get to El Hotep
Yeah. Yeah.
because
All right.
I got
Go
to
ahead.
close out. I'm
Okay.
getting
All
tired
right.
and I'm getting
Yeah.
annoyed.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you. Go ahead, El Hotep.
No, I appreciate it, Danny. Appreciate it. Hey, how's it going, Judge?
Hey.
Um, I wanted to touch on healthcare situation and stuff like that too, but my question was more so along the lines of the political angle. Um, I guess if the Republicans kind of wanted to destroy the Democrats, they would, I guess, pass a bill pertaining to seniors allowing seniors to have free health care. If you're 60 and older, I would think you would be entitled to free health care. I don't know. I wanted to get the judge's opinion on that. I also did kind of want to ask him on this Kennedy assassination, because I've heard this rumor before. It's kind of outrageous, but I did kind of want to touch on it because it's this individual kind of on YouTube who's been making this allegation also, asserting that Jacqueline Kennedy was somehow involved in the assassination of JFK. So I kind of want to get his thoughts on that also.
Judge, can you unmute? Did you hear that? You're muted. Judge, you're muted. I'm getting tired. I'm tired.
Tired of what, Dana? You hold the spaces like you the space host. Like what you tired
We've
of?
been up here for 3 hours. I'm tired of the
All right,
time.
well,
Three
yeah, let's not get
hours.
tired.
You see, you
Well, let's
came. You came on the last hour. You came at the
nah. I
12th
I
hour.
always come in these spaces. Dana, stop.
I know, but you
Let's not
came
get tired of
late.
the truth,
You
right?
came late.
All right. Well, let me say this. Let me say this.
No, I just
Let's
hold on
not
for a
get
second.
tired of
No,
the
no,
truth.
King, wait. I need you to
Let's
mute up
not
because
get
I need
tired
to
of.
figure out. I need to figure out where the judge is at. He's muted. I need the judge to unmute, or maybe you need to drop down and come back up. Judge, you're muted.
If you think Judge muted and he's not listening, Judge ain't muted. Come on, hey Dana, stop disrespecting the judge like that. Stop
You don't
playing.
see that he was
You know what
muted?
I'm saying? What you mean? I see him muted, but when I seen him was muted, Judge wanted to respond, and man, that man listening. Come on,
It's.
we gotta think.
I think you just be quiet, King,
We gotta
please.
think.
How the fuck are you talking over the mute button? First of all, this is his space, so I need for him to talk. This is his space, and he's having technical difficulties. Henrietta, honey, I'm about to close out. I'm about to close out. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with the judge right now. He's having technical difficulties, and it's getting late, and I am exhausted. I'm requesting for. Do you guys see him? Oh, let me unmute. Do you guys see him as a listener? Because I see him as listener right now.
Yeah, I see him as listener, but I don't see him as speaker or
Right.
guest
So
host. But I
I
see him as
dropped him
listener.
down to
Dana, when I was
listener.
just talking to Judge, Judge was as listening.
I dropped him down a listener and then request for him to be the speaker, but I don't know if he could see that he's getting the request to speak button. Let me I gotta do my first. I was talking to the no, nobody can hear you, Judge. He said he was talking. We can't hear you. He said he was talking to the man. Nobody can hear you, Judge. All right, now unmute. See if you can unmute.
I was having a conversation back
But
and
we
forth
didn't
with the
hear
last
you.
gentleman.
But Dana got
You
tired.
couldn't,
But
but
Dana
he
got
could.
tired,
I
Doug.
heard him.
Dana
No,
got
We
tired,
Judge.
were
Doug.
having a
Dana
good
got tired.
conversation. We were having an exchange until you said you couldn't hear me, and then you cut me off.
Nobody could hear you.
Well, he
No,
could.
he couldn't.
Yes, he
Man,
could.
me
We
and
were
Judge was having a
talking.
good conversation. We was going back
No,
and forth,
oh
Yeah.
asking
God. What
conversation.
the fuck, yo? Judge, you when King was talking, you probably could hear him, but at a certain point, if you were saying something, no one can hear you. So what are you talking about?
Dana, we're not buying that. We was having a good conversation. It was flowing. Everybody was here.
I think you're retarded, King, because we heard you and him talking, and then you were talking, and then we did not hear the judge after that because he was having technical difficulties. Because when I kept saying his name, Judge, do you hear me? Do you hear me? You didn't hear him either at a certain point. So stop. Like it's I'm getting
No,
agitated right
Dana.
now.
Somebody, you
Dana,
let somebody
Dana,
else up. You let
he
somebody
and I
else
were
up.
talking. We weren't having a problem. We were communicating, doing a back and forth. At the point you say you couldn't hear me, I couldn't hear you because I kept saying, "Can you hear
But I
me?"
dropped you
I
down to
heard you,
list.
Judge.
It's
I heard everything you
He
said,
was
and
listening
I
to
pay
me and he was
attention, and
responding.
and I'm listening, and I know who you are, and it's big
I get shut the fuck up. I hate when people just want to yap. Judge, I dropped you down to listener, so you couldn't. It was at a point you had no. You first of all, we didn't hear you.
You couldn't, but he could
No,
because
at
he
a
was
certain
resp-
point, King couldn't hear you at a certain point because I kept saying to King, "Can you hear him?" He said no, and I dropped you down to listener.
when you. I could hear you say that. What you did is you cut me off at that
No
point when
one
you
could
said, "Can you
hear
hear me?"
you. I'm sorry,
Well,
Duncan,
you guys
Terrell, did you
couldn't.
hear the
Hold on,
judge?
hold on.
No, I
Somebody's
couldn't hear. I couldn't hear the judge. I didn't hear.
somebody's joining in this conversation, and I did an experiment today. I paid X, you know, that fee where they say enhance, where you want to promote the tweets you had. I promoted a tweet and it jumped up to 2 million views within an hour and a half,
I
but I had to pay them $100 to do it. So what's happening is somebody, algorithms artificially, or somebody in person is screwing with this. And I'm looking at 4 full bars on my iPhone, which is as good a reception as you can get. I ran a diagnostic while we've been talking, and it's showing maximum access
all right. Can we just
and
move on from that?
connectivity.
It's getting late, and
So
I'm
somebody
agitated right
does
now.
not
I just
want
need to
certain
move on.
things.
You're
Somebody,
having technical difficulties. I get it. I get it.
I
I get
get
it.
it, but
I
it's
need to go. Wait,
somebody
Judge,
is
please. Let
joining
me
in.
just go to El Hotep. I just want to go to El Hotep, and
Okay,
I
I
just want
can't
to
hear you
close
now.
out. I'm tired.
You cut off.
Yeah, no,
Because
my
I
question
know
was
what the
about the
problem is,
healthcare.
and I don't want to have this conversation with you right now because you want to just deny it and say that's not the case. So go ahead, El Hotep.
Oh yeah, no, my question my question was about the healthcare. You would think that seniors 60 and older would get, free healthcare. Um, but I just wanted to get the judge's thoughts on that. I wanted to find out his opinion on the JFK assassination. Because I've always, well, I haven't always, but I heard this theory that somehow Jacqueline Kennedy was involved in the assassination. So I don't know. I don't believe that shit is true, but I just wanted to get the judge's opinion on that, because it's a lot of theories out there. I've heard the Secret Service driver. Now I've heard some theory where Jacqueline was involved. So I just wanted to get his theory on that, and what he thought about health care for seniors 60 and older. Would that be a good idea? And should Congress look into that? And why won't they look into that?
Okay, let's start with the health care first. That's the easy one. There was a loophole in the health care, Social Security, really the Social Security statutes that started from the 1930s. Nobody intended it, but FDR found out he could finance his New Deal with it. So that gave the government an opportunity to use Social Security, and later on, medical care, um, Medicare, Medicaid, for a Ponzi scheme. The government would take the money in and not put it back, but assume that future earnings off of the Ponzi scheme would put money back in to keep it working. With penalties and everything, I can just give you the facts, which are this. I'm 78 years old this year. 2 years ago, I had a group health plan, everything in it through SAG after. My bill for that insurance plan was $1,673 and some odd cents per year, and about 3 grand, 4 grand worth of co-pays that went along with it. Well, they tried to defraud us. It's a class action lawsuit going on it. I had to get on Medicare, which I had delayed so I could stay on this private plan. And for the last year, my Medicare bill with my co-pays and the insurance premiums I had to get to pick up the 20% under Part A, Part B, Part D, and G My total bill was almost $15,000 for goddamn Medicare. What they have done is they've set up a Ponzi scheme where they want the money in so they can use it for their little social program agenda and other things. And they want us to die quickly so they don't get caught behind the eight ball trying to pick up the damage from the Ponzi scheme. It's a ripoff. And by the way, it's not big pharma that's ripping the public off. Big pharma is a victim as well. The propaganda wants us to believe it's big pharma, but the true culprits are the medical insurance is the medical insurance industry, not big pharmaceuticals, because the medical insurance industry also controls the generic pharmaceutical industry that doesn't have to pay the bills that big pharma does. And the other thing is, it's not the whole insurance industry, it's just the medical insurance industry, because the same family, the Frist family, Dr. Bill Frist of Nashville, Tennessee, who was the senior U.S. Senator from Tennessee and the Senate Majority Leader in 2003, pushed this act. He drafted it, had his family companies, employees put it together. And when he got the Obama trust fund to invest in it in 2009, and then Obama get it passed in 2010, he resigned because he achieved his objective, which is to make every single member of his family a billionaire in the next 10 years after. They're all there now. And we are ripped off. Now, I'll
All right.
pass the
So
mic.
Go ahead.
so essentially Congress is bought out. So that's why they really won't go after, passing a health care bill that is essentially
Necessary.
going to benefit seniors.
Well, other thing too, they're ignorant. I used to consult with a certain somebody whose name I won't mention. He's been in the U.S. House for 26 years now. And at the time, he had been head in the House for 19 years. And he knew absolutely nothing about the committee work he was supposed to be assigned to. And I said, wait a minute, man. You mean to tell me you've been in charge of this committee for the last 7 years? And you don't know how this works? Well, I've got so and so. He's 22-year-old child. Well, he's 23 now. Well, what the hell's they got to do with it? You're elected. You are supposed to be head of this committee, and you don't know doodly or diddly about it. So you got a 23-year-old who is not elected, who I've met and is an ignorant MF. He's making policy for the United States of America, all 300 plus million of us. And that's supposed to be your job, but you don't know how to do it. What the hell is wrong with this picture? And
All
see,
right.
that's what we've been dealing with is a bunch of ignoramuses who've been lining their pockets by semi-legal, semi-illegal methods and becoming millionaires when for the last 19 years they've been making a civil servant salary, which is almost impossible unless you win the lottery to turn into being a millionaire. And that's
Um,
what's happened to us.
can you hear me?
Our people are not elected
Oh
to
my
do
fucking
service
God.
to their
Can you hear me,
constituents. They
Judge?
use their constituents to get access to money that is acquired in the wrong kind of ways so they can become rich at our expense.
All right. He can't hear me, and I'm about to end this space because I'm not. I'm tired of going through this technical difficulties with his phone. Um, Susan Crawford, she won the Wisconsin Supreme Court election, 54.2% of the vote. And everybody that came up to speak, thank you guys so much. Everybody on YouTube that's in the chat, appreciate you guys. Everybody listening, appreciate you as well. Sorry for the technical difficulties, but it's late and it's just too much. But I will be holding a space on Thursdays and Sunday, and then the judge on Tuesday. Listen, What is going on? I'm just, can you just say goodbye? Just say goodbye, Judge.
Well, the election in Wisconsin came out as I predicted.
Can you hear me?
I hear you. I can
Now
hear
you
you.
can hear me. So we're closing
I
out. So
heard
just
you
say goodnight.
before. I heard you before, and you were listening to a recording of my voice.
It
You
doesn't matter,
respond.
Judge. It does not matter.
I know, but I'm just
You
saying.
having technical difficulties,
Listen.
whatever
I
it
know.
is.
I know.
So it's like
It's
you
not
don't hear me
technical.
trying to interject to move
I hear
on.
you. I'm hearing
All right,
everything
so
you're
look,
saying.
just close out the space. I don't want to hear
I
nothing
am
about the
close.
technical
Listen. Let
difficulties.
me do that. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to deliberate interference because
No,
the
it's
message,
not.
it is
No,
not
it's
your
not. No,
technical.
it's not. You
Excuse
know what
me.
it is? You know what it is? You need to update the app and you need to
It's not
update
my
your phone.
goddamn app needs to be
Exactly. And I knew you
updated.
was going to say that.
Baby,
That's why I didn't even want to
baby,
bring it up.
baby. It's not the
No,
app.
and stop
It's
calling me
somebody.
that. No, yes, it
It's
is. That's
somebody
exactly what it is.
deliberately interfering.
It's not no
Now that's the
interference.
reality.
It's not. It's
I'll
not.
bet you.
Trust me, it's not.
I'll bet you.
It's
It's
not.
interference.
All right.
I'm
So
look,
when I
look.
see you again, I'm
Excuse
gonna
me.
look through your phone and I'm gonna show you all the updates that you need.
I don't need the
I
goddamn
know
updates. I've been
exactly.
doing
All
this
right.
three
Say goodnight.
times longer than you.
Just
I
say
know how
goodnight.
this
Say
works.
goodnight. Say
I've
goodnight.
done it.
Say
Now, just
goodnight.
let me just leave it. I'll do it. Leave it. People, what you've been listening to is an intense discussion of some pertinent issues because they deal with what's fundamentally ours by being citizens or residents, legal residents of this great country, this republic. There are problems with it. It's a family, but it's in any big family, there are a lot of problems. We have to persevere over those problems. But what we've been listening to is a deliberate attack on free speech, so we can't discuss it because it always does this. Even if I use somebody else's device, as soon as I start talking about certain things, which I've been talking about tonight, there is some mysterious glitch, even if I'm not using my own phone system. That's because people want us to be victimized by their efforts to manipulate us. Resist manipulation. Find out everything you can about what's going on because we have the opportunity for greatness. Do not let anybody subvert your quest for this greatness by trying to tell you that you need to beg because you are a victim. To hell with victim status. Kick some ass, take charge, and do what you need to do. And we can all make it because each one of us that puts effort into it is a contribution to a bigger effort. We got to work this together because there are lots of people that want to take this down. So let's say to hell with you, we're going to do it any damn way. So good night, persevere, have a good week, and come back on Thursday. Well, tune in Thursday. We'll be talking about other stuff. Anyway, that's my thing for tonight.